Global evolution. I transplanted the heart of the Supreme God. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. Seating in such a beautiful posture. He first picked up the 2-star skill book, Spin Throw. Spin Throw skill book teaches you to comprehend the skill of spin throw, with a success rate of 100%. This skill book was made by a powerful high-level awakener. SYNOPSIS was happy to talk to Bai Pu for a few more words. She popularized the knowledge of skill books. There are 2 types of skill books. One is made by awakeners, and the other is produced by the spirit world. To make a skill book, an awakener must first practice the skill to a very high level. Then, on a specific base material, the skill perception is fully recorded for later generations to comprehend. The specific base material is generally the skin and bones of monsters with relevant skill talents. For example, the base material of the skill, War Trampling, is generally the leather of special parts of monsters such as Kodo beasts, earth-splitting rhinos, centaurs, etc. The base material is hard to find. For many rare skills, there is no monster with relevant skill talents at all. Even if a strong person practices it to a very high level, there is no way to record the perception and pass it on to later generations. Therefore, the supply of ordinary skilled books is relatively sufficient. As long as you have honor points, you can learn as many times as you want. However, rare skilled books produced by the spirit world cannot be exchanged casually with honor points, and ordinary permissions cannot even retrieve them. SYNOPSIS said, I suggest you learn the most precious one, Unstable Shield, first. This is a rare skilled book produced by the will of the spirit world. Currently, no awakener in the real world can make it. Bai Pu nodded. The more skills an awakener has and the stronger they are, the lower the success rate of comprehending new skills. So it makes sense to learn the most precious skills first to ensure high comprehension efficiency. Bai Pu opened the Unstable Shield skill book, and suddenly a burst of light particles gushed out, turning into a stream of information flowing into his mind. Bai Pu suddenly appeared in front of a terrible furnace, filled with colorful magic fire, and chaotic energy expanded rapidly, reaching a delicate balance in the tremor. Then with a bang, the energy exploded. You have learned the 2-star skill, Unstable Shield. Current skill level, level 1. With a prompt, Bai Pu clearly felt that he had mastered this skill and could view the specific data. The shield created by Unstable Shield can absorb up to 45 points of damage, which is 3 times the endurance attribute. Similarly, when the shield explodes, the maximum damage it can cause to surrounding enemies is also 45 points. A group attack, 45 points of damage, is definitely powerful in the early stage. The disadvantage is that it takes 3 seconds to detonate. Bai Pu must be careful not to be consumed too much by the enemy after opening the shield, otherwise it will lose its power. Bai Pu then picked up the Spin Throw skill book again. Now, the success rate of understanding Spin Throw has dropped to 97%. There is still a 97% success rate. Several people around, including the knowledgeable SYNOPSIS, were stunned. I remember that when Mad Dog learned the second skill, the success rate was 91%. This is already the highest in our period. His first skill is only a 1-star one. Killen murmured. Little Bai Pu's hidden attribute, comprehension, must be ridiculously high. SYNOPSIS asserted. Bai Pu smiled, then held his breath and opened the skill book. A picture appeared in front of him, a burly awakener like a mountain, with his body slightly bent, like a bow full of power. Then he swung his arm, and a shield flew out, drawing a graceful arc full of power, breaking the big tree in the distance. The shield continued to draw an arc and flew back to the awakener's hand. No low probability events occurred, and Bai Pu successfully learned Spin Throw. The third skill book, Jump Slash. Bai Pu's comprehension success rate dropped to 85%. He also learned Jump Slash, and having an extra displacement skill is still very useful. Good guy, the success rate of the third skill book is the same as my second one. Black Tiger smacked his lips and said, if you learn the 4th skill now, the success rate is estimated to be more than 60%. I have no honor points. Bai Pu said. Not only that, he actually owed 300 points. When you reach level 2 and learn the 4th skill, The success rate of comprehension will be higher than when you are at level 1. SYNOPSIS said. That's right. The success rate of awakened people's comprehension of skills is related to the level and career template. The stronger the career template and the higher the level of awakened people, the higher the success rate of comprehension of skills. Especially level 4 and level 7, which are the two hurdles for intermediate awakened people and advanced awakened people, the improvement is particularly large. Killen said this common sense. Bai Pu stretched his waist. After finishing what he had to do, he was hit by a strong sleepiness. The fatigue of breaking through 3 layers of the bone cave and comprehending 3 skills in a row was almost overwhelming. Go and rest, take a nap, otherwise your mental strength will not be able to recover at all. SYNOPSIS said with concern, your room is arranged at number 237, here is your key. Bai Pu yawned, I want to get familiar with the skills again. But his eyelids were almost unable to open. After waking up, Bai Pu raised his watch. Smart assistant Bai reported, Master, you slept for 3 hours and 46 minutes. Now it is 5:27 p.m. You have a package at the door. It was sent by Ms. SYNOPSIS, and she left a message. Bai Pu turned over and sat up, feeling energetic and tired. He opened the door to take out the package, which contained a set of clothes. SYNOPSIS' message sounded at the same time. Bai Pu, I bought you a set of clothes, a white sweater, black trousers, and white sneakers. I think it suits your temperament. Bai Pu found that there were unopened underwear and socks in the package. He couldn't help but cover his face. How did SYNOPSIS know that he had just returned from the spirit world and didn't wear underwear? Or his appearance played a role? Bai Pu is still not used to the feeling of being held in the palm of a beautiful woman's hand and being held by the stars. For more than 10 years, he has been a transparent person, and his mentality cannot be changed for a while. He gave Bai an instruction, asking him to scan how much the clothes cost, and then transfer it to SYNOPSIS through the social account. After the release of the record of the Security Bureau, Bai Pu's personal account can be used without any worries. Although Bai Pu is very poor and has little money in his personal account, it is his entire savings after all, and it is enough to pay for this set of clothes. A strong feeling of hunger came over Bai Pu, and he quickly put on his clothes and shoes and opened the door. SYNOPSIS said that the base has a self-funded restaurant. Bai, help me locate it. Beep, the watch projected an illusory light screen, which showed the floor plan of the Zichen branch base of the Transcend army. From Bai Pu's current location, a green line extended, and after 2 turns, it pointed directly to the location of the restaurant. Bai Pu secretly praised the convenience and intelligence of the personal information terminal. He didn't have the money to buy such an expensive personal terminal before. He followed a navigation route and quickly rushed to the restaurant. The restaurant at the Transcend army base is a self-service restaurant, and the layout style is a bit like a cafe, with partition spaces, and each partition is a small table for 4 or 2 people. There are very few people in the restaurant now, sitting sparsely in various corners of the restaurant. In the booth in the southeast corner, Bai Pu found Li Ling and SYNOPSIS sitting opposite each other. Li Ling was communicating through a personal information terminal, and her expression was very unhappy. Bai Pu. Here, SYNOPSIS waved her hand. Bai Pu brought a full plate of food, walked to SYNOPSIS and sat down, and then began to sweep it away like a whirlwind. The energy consumption was a bit high, and it must be replenished as soon as possible. SYNOPSIS held her chin with one hand, and admired Bai Pu's eating with interest, and said leisurely, Hey, Bai Pu, how do you manage to eat so fast and have such a beautiful posture when eating? Chapter 27, Enrollment. Bai Pu almost spit out his food. That's because you're a nympho. Li Ling pressed the communication screen of her personal terminal with a beep and said to Bai Pu, Sorry, I contacted several schools for you, but none of them worked. Failed. Bai Pu was a little surprised, and after thinking for a while, he said, What did they say? You didn't graduate from junior high school, so you're not qualified to go to high school, let alone go directly to the 3rd year of high school. Li Ling obviously sneered at this reason. It's ridiculous. You applied for the combat class, not the cultural class. You've already successfully awakened, but you're still not qualified? This is clearly an excuse. It's really abnormal. Bai Pu swallowed a mouthful of barbecue, wiped the corner of his mouth and said, It should be the super energy group using their connections to retaliate against me. In the psychic era, Schools have a high demand for psychic points and psychic items because of the existence of combat classes and combat majors. Although there are education grants, they are just a drop in the bucket. If you want to build a strong combat major, you still need social donations. Only the local big forces can donate resources for the cultivation of awakeners. The superpower group is such a local power. It has deep roots in the Jiangnan region and is a powerful local tyrant. Usually, for some interests, the superpower group will donate money and materials to schools, hospitals and other public institutions, and has a lot of influence in various schools in the Jiangnan region. Some time ago, the superpower group accused Bai Pu of theft, which caused a sensation. Bai Pu's popularity in the real world has been raised to sea level. Who doesn't know the leaders of various schools in the Jiangnan region? Even without the top management of the superpower group speaking, in order not to offend this god of wealth, the various schools in the Jiangnan region will naturally refuse Bai Pu. Li Ling is a captain. As a member of the Shen-set army, he often represents the Dadan group to go out for business negotiations, which is considered a bit of face in the Jiangnan region. However, the Shen-set army has a military background and has almost no acquaintances in the local civil affairs and education departments, so its influence is naturally small. The donations to various schools are far less than that of the superpower group. Anyway, Bai Pu does not have a junior high school diploma, and no one can find fault with refusing to enroll. Sister Ling, which schools did you ask? Bai Pu asked. Jianda Affiliated High School, Zicheng No. 1 High School, Westlake High School. Li Ling said expressionlessly as she listed 7 or 8 schools in a row. They are all good schools. Bai Pu heard these familiar school names. When he was in junior high school, many of his classmates had dreamed of these high schools. Your cultural foundation is too poor, so of course I want to pick a good high school for you. Li Ling rubbed his forehead. The college entrance examination, even the awakening paper, also includes the cultural subject scores. Now there are less than 2 months left before the college entrance examination. Otherwise, you should consider taking the college entrance examination next year. Sure, Xiao Bai Pu is 17 this year, and he will be 18 next year, not exceeding the age. Su Xiao turned her head in agreement and said to Bai Pu, you have such a high level of comprehension, you must learn very quickly, and the possibility of getting into a good university next year will definitely increase greatly. Two sisters, there is one thing you don't understand. Bai Pu shook his head and said, I'm not taking the college entrance examination just to go to college. I'm taking the college entrance examination because of the threat from the superpower group. After all, the risks of assassinating an ordinary awakener are completely different from those of assassinating a college entrance examination champion. What's the point of waiting a year to participate? Within this year, the superpower group will still attack me unscrupulously. But you are participating this year, with less than 2 months of preparation time. How can you get the top score in the college entrance examination? There are no less than 100,000 awakened people taking the college entrance examination every year. The fierce competition is beyond imagination. Li Ling shook her head and said, I feel that it is more feasible to find a way to help you apply for long-term publicity resources to increase your world reputation. Su Xiao muttered, publicity resources are also one of the rewards exchanged with honor points, and they must be reviewed by superiors. Without honor points, directly tilting publicity resources will definitely be objected to by others. Unless Xiao Bai Pu can join the army and become a professional soldier, but then he will not be so free. If an organization wants to become bigger and stronger, it must have rules and regulations. The Shen-set army is not a small workshop-style awakened family, but a large organization that can enter the first-class league. It is unlikely to make an exception for Bai Pu. There should be more than these schools in Jiangnan district. Bai Pu didn't want to lose his freedom, so he changed the topic again. In fact, as long as I get the qualification for the college entrance examination, it doesn't matter which school I go to. Are you so sure? Li Ling looked at Bai Pu in confusion. Don't think that you are an awakener and you can take the top scorer in the college entrance examination. Awakening before the age of 18 is considered a genius picked out of 100, but looking at the millions of combat candidates in China, how many such geniuses are there? The spiritual world trial has the nature of elimination. For those who fail the first time, the difficulty of the next time will be increased by an additional 30%. Therefore, combat students are more cautious in taking the awakener trial. Not only must their strength meet the standards, but their minds must also be mature. Knowledge reserves, vision and strategy are indispensable. Most awakeners are promoted to university and awakened around the age of 20. Only a small number of young geniuses will have the confidence to try awakening before the college entrance examination, so those who can successfully awaken before the age of 18 are geniuses picked out of 100. But the base number is too large. Since the development of the psychic era, a set of effective awakener training system has been formed, especially for those strong second generation. There are many who are 16 or 17 years old, and the total attributes of the 4 dimensions have reached a critical value of 20 points. With such a base, there are more than 100,000 genius candidates who awaken in advance in each session. Of course, most of them are ordinary professions with standard templates. What is really scary is that those elite strong second generations will be carefully cultivated since childhood, and perseverance, knowledge, and tactics will be taught by special teachers. After the attributes meet the standards, the family will also give a good set of equipment. In this way, fully armed from the outside to the inside, awakening is naturally a matter of course, and the probability of overturning is still very small. The goal of the elite strong second generation is not simply to pass the trial, but to get a better promotion template, which is higher than others from the starting point. The awakened candidates take the college entrance examination and can form an absolute strength crushing against other ordinary candidates in the combat department. Therefore, under the college entrance examination system, awakened and non-awakened are 2 completely different test papers. Non-awakened people do ordinary papers, and awakened people take awakening papers. The awakening paper is not just a simple test paper. In addition to cultural subjects, it also includes simulated combat subjects and even spiritual world exploration subjects. Of course, the top scorer in the college entrance examination will only come from the awakening paper. Even if a non-awakened person makes a good ordinary paper, he will not get the top scorer, because the ordinary paper will not be ranked together with the awakening paper. This is not unfair, because being able to awaken early itself proves the excellence of the awakened candidates. I understand, I'm just trying. Bai Pu smiled. You give me the feeling that you are not just trying. Li Ling muttered, and after thinking for a while, she said, if you only need a college entrance examination qualification, you can enter my alma mater. Let me remind you that my alma mater is not a famous school. It doesn't matter whether it is a famous school or not, as long as I can transfer to the class and obtain the college entrance examination qualification. Bai Pu confirmed again, Sister Ling, which high school is your alma mater? Don't you need to please the superpower group? Well, a rural high school, how can it be in the eyes of the superpower group? Li Ling said, the name of the school is Zijin No. 17 Middle School. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Wings of the Sky. Zijin No. 17 Middle School. Formerly known as Zikin Middle School, it is a village high school that mainly serves the vast rural areas in the western suburbs of the old city. Later, the Zicheng education system was rectified, and this village high school was included in the sequence of urban schools and renamed Zicheng No. 17 Middle School. However, this did not bring substantial changes to this middle school. Squeak. The military green jeep stopped in front of the school gate. A group of people got off the car one after another. What kind of school is this? It's so shabby. Suzuya Oxio took off her sunglasses, looked around, and couldn't help complaining. You want me to say? Li Ling said to Suzuya Oxio. She could say that her alma mater was shabby, but she didn't agree to others saying so. The gate of Zicheng No. 17 Middle School is mottled, and large chunks of wall skin have fallen off the outside of the wall, like pieces of scars. The ground is cement, but there are many cracks, and tenacious weeds are drilling out of the gaps. This school is not big, with only one teaching building, and the others are flat-tiled houses. But surprisingly, these buildings have been carefully repaired and look good, and there are no dangerous buildings. According to Li Ling, there are only 3 classes in the senior year of No. 17 Middle School, 2 cultural classes and 1 combat class. The source of students is not very good, and many are left behind children whose parents work away from home. But what surprised Bai Pu was that the quality of the students in this school was quite good. There were no students with bad behaviors such as dyeing their hair, wearing jewelry, or holding cigarettes. Most people were in a hurry, and some were still holding books. No students came to disturb Bai Pu and others. At most, they would look back curiously when passing by. The principal was an old man with silver hair, but he was in good spirits. Li Ling respected him very much. It was heard that this old principal had been working in Zichen No. 17 middle school for more than 20 years. When Li Ling was in high school, he was the principal. After hearing Li Ling's intention, the old principal readily agreed and joked, "Li Ling, you are the golden phoenix that flew out of our poor corner. I didn't expect that 10 years later, you would bring in another golden phoenix." Li Ling looked around with some emotion and said, "Principal, I didn't expect my alma mater to be in such a difficult situation. I haven't been back for these years and haven't been able to help much. I dare not say that. You have helped the school a lot. If it weren't for your donation to repair the teaching building, the students would still be in the dangerous building. I understand that you have difficulties." The old principal kept talking and actually dug up Li Ling's bottom. Li Ling was born in the countryside, and her parents worked in Jiangnan Base City. She studied in the combat class of Zichen No. 17 middle school and was considered a left-behind child. After hard work, Li Ling was admitted to the military academy and successfully awakened 2 years later. Now she has important positions in Datan Group and Shenzhen Army. She has a bit of face in the Jiangnan region, which is considered a counterattack in life. Of course, her price is to become a professional soldier, not as free as other awakeners. Su Xiaoxiao looked at the cracked cement floor and said, "How about I apply to the organization and donate some money to the school to level the ground and repaint the walls?" The old principal laughed and said, "Donations are welcome, but there is no need to change the ground and walls. It would be better to use it to improve the meals for the children in the combat class. Rural children are very hard-working, but they lack nutritious exotic meat. If the nutrition can be guaranteed, maybe there will be a few more Li Lings." Su Xiaoxiao stopped talking. Exotic meat is not cheap. It is obtained by awakeners hunting mutants in the wilderness. Moreover, improving meals is a long-term investment, and it cannot be solved by a small amount of money. The facade needs to be changed. Li Ling said, "When the freshmen see such a school, their spirits will be half lost." "Li Ling, you don't know, our school is about to be closed down. Where are the freshmen?" The old principal shook his head and said, "According to the document issued by the Education Department this year, Zichen No. 17 Middle School is one of the schools planned to be closed down and merged in the next 5 years. We can't pretend to be rich. It's useless to have such a good facade." 3. Bai Pu had a good impression of the old principal and asked, "Is it because of the low enrollment rate?" "Not really. Our school's academic performance is not bad. Although there are no top students admitted to the 8 famous universities, many of them are admitted to key universities." The old principal smacked his lips and said as if he had a toothache, "It's just that the enrollment rate of the combat class is not good. It always fails to meet the target." Li Ling digested the news and couldn't help saying, "The school is closed down. Where will the students go to study?" "The document says that it will be merged into Zichen No. 9 Middle School." The old principal said. "No. 9 Middle School? That school is not very good. It's quite far from here." Su Xiaoxiao said. "It's 15 kilometers. If you don't live on campus, you have to ride a bike for 2 hours every day." Li Ling sighed, "I didn't choose No. 9 Middle School because of the long distance." As they were talking, they had already arrived at the principal's office. Bai Pu was surprised again. The principal's office was actually a small shed made of iron sheets. This kind of small iron shed is not warm in winter, but very hot in summer. It is usually used to build a carport. The old principal took the student's record brought by Li Ling and personally handled Bai Pu's admission. He even skipped the academic ability test. In the old principal's words, the academic ability test is for ordinary test takers. Bai Pu will take the awakening test in the future, so he doesn't need to take the academic ability test. The identity of an awakener is the best certificate. Afterwards, the old principal arranged a class for Bai Pu, the only combat class in the senior year, Senior 3. The head teacher was named Ren Zhenghu. When he heard about Bai Pu's identity as an awakener, he was surprised and excited. He quickly arranged a seat for Bai Pu. His deskmate was the best student in the combat class. He said that he could learn from Bai Pu. Bai Pu quickly rejected teacher Ren's kindness. In the next 2 months, he would not stay in school for long, so he would not need to take a good seat. A desk in the back row would suffice. Teacher Ren gave Bai Pu his treasured 3-year high school textbooks, which were densely covered with his key points and annotations. He had been teaching for 20 years and was familiar with the key points. He could attend classes without these textbooks. After completing the admission procedures and obtaining the college entrance examination qualifications, Bai Pu and his party left in a military green jeep. Looking back at the mottled walls of Zichen No. 17 Middle School, Bai Pu felt deeply that although this school was shabby and the quality of students was not good, it did have an uplifting atmosphere. From the principal to the students, they basically had clear goals and knew clearly what they should do and what their responsibilities were. It's a pity to close down and merge such a school. Bai Pu said softly. There is no way. Now the awakened are the priority. The poor admission rate of the combat class is unqualified in the eyes of the education department. Su Xiaoxiao said. Not all combat students who are admitted to universities can be promoted to awakeners, but they have strong physiques and abundant energy. They are more popular than ordinary people who have never experienced training when they switch to other industries. Therefore, the admission rate of combat classes is more important in the eyes of the education department. Li Ling said jokingly, if you can break through the siege of tens of thousands of awakener candidates and win the top scorer, you may be able to help the school avoid closure. Bai Pu smiled introvertedly and didn't say anything big. He sat in the back seat and flipped through the textbooks given to him by Teacher Ren page by page. Are you reading too fast? Su Xiaoxiao couldn't help but come over to talk. Bai Pu smiled and said, in fact, I have studied these textbooks on my own before. Now I flip through them to see how much I can remember. The cultural course part of the awakening volume is not difficult. What can really make a difference is the simulated combat results and the spiritual world exploration results. These two items require hard skills. Li Ling said. Bai Pu quickly finished flipping through the book, closed it and said, I understand. Can you tell me what level of strength the top scorer in last year's college entrance examination was? I know. Su Xiaoxiao said, last year's top scorer in the college entrance examination was named Wan Zhen, and he was a hero of the Sky Wings class. Chapter 29, Dead Bone Mountains. Hero Profession. Bai Pu was a little surprised. The best template that a newly promoted awakener can get should only be the enhanced elite, right? Su Xiaoxiao shook her head. I've seen an interview with Wan Zhen. He awakened at the age of 15. At first, he was an enhanced elite profession Pegasus Knight. Later, by chance, he started his second job change and finally achieved the hero profession. By the way, when he became the top scorer in the college entrance examination, he was already level 4. The so-called coincidence is nothing more than the blessing of the family. Li Ling said, get it? So I said, it's not so easy to be the top scorer in the college entrance examination. It's not so easy to stand out from tens of thousands of talented awakeners. Well, I awakened relatively late, and my hard power is temporarily behind. Bai Pu said, next I have to hurry up to level up. I remember that I have the qualification to enter the border area Dead Bone Mountains once. Can I go in now? The border area cannot be entered at any time, especially the exploration and combat type of border area. I remember it is opened every 3 months. Li Ling looked at Su Xiaoxiao. Xiaoxiao, you should remember it better than me. Well, let's calculate the time. The last time the Dead Bone Mountain range was closed was in January. It's almost time for the summer to open. Su Xiaoxiao opened the personal information terminal, called the smart assistant to start the query, and quickly confirmed the time. The summer opening time of the Dead Bone Mountain range is May 15th. If you sign up now, you still have more than 10 days to prepare. Su Xiaoxiao said. Where is the entrance to the junction? Bai Pu planned to leave in advance, and he felt a sense of urgency in his heart. The threshold for promotion to intermediate awakeners is from level 3 to level 4. This stage is the easiest to trigger the second job transfer. Bai Pu is not like other strong second generations. He has the blessing of his family and the precious spiritual world artifacts given by his elders, so he can easily get the opportunity for a second job transfer. He must become stronger as soon as possible and seize the heart tissue from the junction of the Superstar Alliance. Seeing Bai Pu's eagerness, Li Ling and Su Xiaoxiao both laughed. No need to leave in advance, the entrance to the junction is in all 7 districts. Su Xiaoxiao then told Bai Pu the reason. The junction of the Dead Bone Mountains is controlled by the Chinese military, and space channels have been set up in the 7 regions of China. Therefore, Bai Pu does not need to go to other regions. As long as he goes to the special military base in the Jiangnan region, he can enter the junction of the Dead Bone Mountains through the space channel. This is quite convenient. Bai Pu nodded silently, opened another book, Modern and Contemporary History of Europe, and read it attentively. Time flies, and it is May 15th, which is also the day when the junction of the Dead Bone Mountains is opened. Jiangnan Base City, western suburbs. Special military base. The hall is full of awakened people from all sides. The level of these awakened people is no more than level 3, belonging to the low-level awakened sequence. Some of them are active military personnel, some are members of military-civilian cooperation organizations such as the Shense Army, and there are many pure outsiders who have obtained entry rights by paying high psychic point admission fees. Bai Pu, who had obtained the admission qualification for free, was secretly impressed when he heard the staggering entrance fee of psychic points. Joining a large organization still has many benefits, of course. The premise is to receive key training, such as the Genius Camp. Bai Pu. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded. Bai Pu closed the book and looked back, only to see Qilin and 2 other young awakeners he didn't know, looking at him. The 3 of them came over. Bai Pu, I heard from Sister Ling that you also participated in the exploration of the border area of the Dead Bone Mountains. As expected, I saw you. Killen's communication skills were full, and he introduced with a smile, let me introduce you, this is Jin Yu, an elite professional monk. And this? Mad Dog. A boy with dark circles under his eyes and a slightly pale face stared at Bai Pu and said. From the beginning, his eyes were fixed on Bai Pu, without any concern for the strange eyes of others. Hello. Bai Pu nodded, showing a smile in line with social etiquette, and then continued to read. Qilin was a little speechless for a while. He originally wanted to invite Bai Pu to team up with him to enter the border area, but now he didn't know what to say. Forget it, Bai Pu has also signed up for the college entrance examination. He has a poor foundation and has been studying hard. I won't bother him. Qilin thought for a long time and whispered to the other 3. The short and thick boy codenamed Taurus had a shiny bald head and smiled. Forget it, anyway, our team of 3 is enough, with a tank, a DPS, and an assistant. Besides, we are all level 3, so what's the point of bringing an extra level 1? It's hard to distribute the spoils. The hall was buzzing with noise, but Bai Pu had no distractions and was always focused on the book. Everyone who should come has arrived. Everyone, be quiet. A voice sounded on the steps at the entrance of the corridor in the north of the hall. The speaker was an awakened officer. His tone was calm, but with an irresistible majesty. The original noise in the field quickly subsided. I'm Xiang Yinghua, the military skills instructor of the Changquang Special Forces Base. You can just call me Instructor Xiang. Xiang Yinghua looked around the field and said in a deep voice, I believe you have learned about the rules before you came. However, in order to avoid unpleasant things, I still have to reiterate several disciplines for entering the border of the Dead Bone Mountains. First, only awakeners of level 3 or below are allowed to enter the Dead Bone Mountains. Second, you cannot carry any communication equipment. You must carry the psychic camera issued by the military and turn on the camera throughout the process. Third, the border is open for 10 days. When it is closed, everyone must leave and must not stay. Did you hear it clearly? The answer of I heard it clearly sounded sparsely in the hall, not very neat. Instructor Xiang Yinghua shrugged his eyebrows, but still held back and said loudly, according to the registration number, collect the psychic camera, and then line up at the entrance and turn to wait for inspection. Numbers 1 to 10. The hall was in turmoil again. Bai Pu had heard of the 3 rules of the Dead Bone Mountains. Suzai Oxio specifically told him about it, and also revealed the reason. The Bone Mountain Range is a medium-sized plane in the spirit world, the intersection of the Underdark and the real world. In the Underdark plane world, the awakened level that can currently match is level 3 or below, including level 3, so the border also adheres to this level restriction, and awakened people above level 4 cannot enter. During the exploration process, it is not difficult to understand that the military cameras must be turned on throughout the process. After all, it is a border that the military regards as a treasure. They must keep abreast of the situation at all times to prevent someone from sabotaging it. Of course, it is not easy to destroy a border. The border is also a place that real laws cannot control, but if there is a dispute, Here it refers to a serious dispute that can trigger a war between the awakened forces. It is more convenient for the authorities to mediate and judge with a video. As for the last one, everyone must leave when it is closed, in order to maintain the border. The spirit plane has a characteristic: when there are no awakened people in the entire plane, the speed of time in the spirit plane will gradually speed up compared to the real world. The borderland also has this characteristic. When all awakeners leave and the borderland is closed, the flow of time gradually speeds up. The 3-month closure period in the outside world may take more than 3 years in the borderland. During this long period of time, the psychic medicinal materials in the borderland will grow a new crop, the cold and icy death energy will breed new monster groups, and some ignorant spiritual world creatures will mistakenly enter the borderland through the gaps and join the new monster groups in the borderland. This is the maintenance period of the borderland, so that there will be new resources to plunder in the next round of exploration. Bai Pu quickly received his psychic camera. He is number 97. Bai Pu, add a friend. The friends of the psychic camera have a positioning function. If you encounter difficulties when you arrive at the borderland, you can find us to meet up. Killen whispered. Bai Pu added a friend, and he felt that Killen was really warm-hearted and had full communication skills. In fact, this is also related to the potential shown by Bai Pu. From Bai Pu's evil performance in the Bone Cave, Killen concluded that he would definitely be able to enter the main team of the second phase in the future. As for the current level gap of only 2 levels, it may be caught up after a few explorations in the spirit world. Mad Dog also took out the psychic camera and exchanged friends with Bai Pu, which surprised Killen and Taurus. Taurus hesitated for a moment and added the friend, otherwise the resistance would be too obvious. The military inspection was also very simple. You only need to show your ID and set your professional level to exhibition status. Other information does not need to be shown. The awakened sergeant in charge of the inspection was stunned when he saw Bai Pu's face, and then checked Bai Pu's ID card information and found that he was a member of the Genius Battalion of the Shinsen Army. His face softened a bit. Looking up and seeing that Bai Pu's professional level was only level 1, the sergeant said, "Be careful after entering. Just kill a few lone skeleton soldiers on the periphery. If you encounter an enemy that you can't beat, leave the border in time, and you won't be in danger of your life. Everyone has this map, you take it." Bai Pu took the map, thanked him, and then stepped into the light curtain of the space channel with the other 9 people in the same batch. Chapter 30, Pure Blood Control. The white light faded away, and the scenery slowly froze. What came into view was a dark plain with a hazy mist. The visibility was not high, but the undulating curves of the mountains in the distance could be vaguely seen, like the back of a giant beast. The Dead Bone Mountains were very large. With the strength of the awakened, it would take several days to cross the map. Bai Pu opened the map. This was the difference between the border and the spirit plane. The awakened could bring in real objects. Taking advantage of this feature, the military also set up camps for rest in various places in the Dead Bone Mountains. The location of each camp was marked on Bai Pu's map. My current location should be called the Black Plains. Bai Pu looked up and looked ahead. The map marks the dangerous and forbidden areas of the Dead Bone Mountains, and also indicates the recommended exploration level of each area. The outer area is recommended for exploration by level 1 awakeners, the middle area is level 2, and the deepest area is level 3. The reason for such a clear distinction in danger is that the concentration of psychic particles in the Dead Bone Mountains is different. The outer area is weak, the middle area is higher, and the deepest area, especially the dangerous areas, has the highest concentration of psychic particles. If the creatures in the spirit world are fish, the concentration of psychic particles is nutrients. They instinctively want to gather in the area with the highest concentration, but the creatures in the spirit world also have a sense of territory. Only the strong are qualified to occupy the area with the highest concentration, and so on. Of course, this is not an online game. Sometimes unexpected situations will occur. Monsters in the deepest part will occasionally wander to the middle or even the outer area. A rotten bone skeleton in front of him, dragging a rusty scimitar, staggered and wandered, and did not notice Bai Pu. Bai Pu stepped forward, swung the bone hammer, and smashed the rotten bone skeleton to death in a few strokes. Monsters in the border area will not drop any treasure chests, but the awakened can loot their corpses and strip the equipment from the dead bodies. Of course, these equipment are in the unsealed state, and the awakened cannot complete the steps of psychic particle resonance, so they cannot be used normally and can only be used as firewood sticks. Bai Pu bent down and picked up the rusty scimitar of the rotten skeleton. Rusty scimitar, unsealed, quality, rough, gray, equipment location, one-handed, equipment requirements, basic strength 3, attributes, attack power 1-2, additional skills, easy to break, equipment durability is more likely to decrease. Durability 9/20, description, this scimitar has been severely rusted, and only ignorant people will regard it as a reliable weapon. At the same time, Bai Pu received a prompt message from the will of the spirit world, this equipment has not been sealed yet, and psychic particle resonance cannot be performed. Although Bai Pu can pick up this scimitar, the additional attributes will not take effect. However, the equipment looted at the border can still be collected and packaged and sold to the waste equipment recycling company. The latter can be transformed into psychic metal materials after being split and smelted. If you are lucky, you can find top-quality equipment from powerful monsters and spend a drop of beeswax to re-encapsulate it. The encapsulated equipment can be used by the awakened. Of course, beeswax is also divided into different grades. The high-grade, golden beeswax, is very valuable and is not cheaper than a piece of gold equipment. Whether it is worth re-encapsulating depends on the situation. Bai Pu threw the gray scimitar into the storage space and continued to move forward. He found several more rotten skeletons. The virtual copy, Bone Crypt, that I had previously explored was designed and built based on the border of Dead Bone Mountains. The monsters that appear in the Bone Crypt, such as rotten skeletons, skeleton soldiers, dead bone mages, etc., are all types of monsters that exist in the Dead Bone Mountains. The first, second, and third floors of the Bone Crypt are actually designed based on the level 1, 2nd, and 3rd areas of the Dead Bone Mountains. There is an important difference between the two. The Bone Crypt is a virtual dungeon, which can only train combat expertise and skill proficiency, but will not increase professional experience or get spoils of war. The Dead Bone Mountains are the real borderland, where you can gain valuable professional experience points, that is, leveling up. You can also search for equipment and materials. After walking on the Black Plains for a few hours, Bai Pu entered the level 2 area, which is the middle section of the Dead Bone Mountains. This is a relatively open valley, and its name on the map is Black Mist Valley. Bai Pu first found the camp in the Black Mist Valley, which was a bunker arranged by the military. In order to avoid the camp being destroyed by the new monsters during the closure of the borderland, the military deliberately dug down and designed it as a bunker when setting up the camp. Bai Pu went into the bunker to check it out. It was full of dust and cobwebs, as if no one had used it for a long time. During the 3-month closure period in real time, there were no awakeners in the Dead Bone Mountains, and the flow of time was accelerated. I'm afraid that several years have passed. The bunker was empty, with only simple camp beds, small square tables and other furniture, all made of stainless steel. Although it is simple, it is still possible to take a break as a temporary camp. The bunker is very hidden, and there is no need to worry about being discovered by wandering monsters. Although the awakened person will not affect their combat power if they do not sleep for a few days, it is difficult to recover if they do not have a good sleep when their mental power is dry. It is necessary to have a resting place. Bai Pu took the key, turned around and stepped out of the bunker, and locked the iron door of the bunker. This bunker is temporarily used by Bai Pu. The military does not allow awakened people to destroy public facilities, and those who violate the rules will be severely punished. Therefore, this iron door can prevent other awakened people from taking advantage of the situation to a certain extent. There are many monsters gathered in the Black Mist Valley, basically level 1 and level 2, which is just right for my training. Bai Pu strode forward with a handful of stones in his hand. When he saw the shadowy shadow of the monster in the black fog, he threw a stone over to track the monster. After learning the skill of spin throw, Bai Pu can throw stones accurately even without using the skill. This is the change that combat skills bring to the awakened. Soon, Bai Pu was followed by a bunch of skeleton monsters. Most of them were ordinary skeleton soldiers, and there were 2 skeleton warriors. Keratin skin, open. Flesh armor, open. Strands of blood red energy were extracted from the surrounding monsters and absorbed by Bai Pu, turning into blood red shield. 2 minutes later, all the skeleton soldiers died, and the 2 skeleton warriors became residual blood. After Bai Pu killed one skeleton warrior, he beat the second one to the brink of death. The latter knelt on the ground with a big sword, waiting for time to pass to recover his health. Bai Pu stretched out a finger, and a drop of red blood flowed from his fingertips. Pure blood defense. Pa. Pure blood dripped on the top of the skeleton warrior's head, quickly seeped into the skeleton warrior's head bones, and spread to the whole body. The remaining soul fire in the skeleton warrior's eye sockets trembled greatly, as if struggling with his will. After a few seconds, it stood up and stood beside Bai Pu with a big sword. Bai Pu got a hint and he gained 2 life points. Including the dead skeleton warrior, there were 4 life points in total, and the total amount had increased to 83 out of 100. Bai Pu added all the 7 free attributes brought by the pure blood to the skeleton warrior's strength. Crack! A burst of bone explosion sounded, and the skeleton warrior's bones grew larger and thicker, and the soul fire in his eye sockets became more intense. Chapter 31 Skeleton Mage Leader. Bai Pu checked the attribute panel of the skeleton warrior. As a master, he can check the attribute information of the slave at will, without any skills or costs. Skeleton Warrior Elite Level 2, Race, Undead Bone Clan, Profession, Skeleton Warrior, Attributes, Strength 21 plus 7, Agility 12, Constitution 15, Spirit 6, Professional Skills, Brutal Strike, Passive, Attack will cause additional physical damage and repel the opponent. Combat Expertise, Advanced Equipment, Two-Handed Sword, Level 3, Advanced Combat Level 2. Combat Skills, Spinning Smash, Weapon Block, Ruthless Assault, 28 points of strength. Definitely stronger than the Level 3 Strength Elite creature. Bai Pu looked at his professional experience bar again. After clearing this wave of monsters, his professional experience bar has risen to 59%, and he has gained a full 3% of experience. With the vastness of the Black Mist Valley and the variety of monsters, Bai Pu can definitely reach level 2 as long as he clears a few more waves of monsters. Bai Pu sat cross-legged on the ground, took off the iron spike shoulder guard, and began to carve the flesh and blood spell. Half an hour later, the flesh and blood spell was successfully carved. Bai Pu stood up, put on the iron spike shoulder guard, picked up a handful of stones again, and started the second wave of monsters. Just when Bai Pu was having a great time killing monsters, suddenly there was a whistling sound of arrows breaking through the air, and an arrow burning with fire exploded above Bai Pu's head. The flames splashed everywhere, and the surrounding skeleton monsters, which were already low in health, fell to the ground one after another and turned into bone residue. Bai Pu was furious. The distribution of experience points by the spirit world's will is based on the contribution of killing, and has nothing to do with whether it is the last hit. But the last hit originally means at least 20% of the contribution to killing. Bai Pu's flesh and blood armor has low single-shot damage, and it depends on time to accumulate damage, unlike this explosive arrow, which has high damage. This wave of monsters has at least robbed 20% of the experience points. Who? Bai Pu said in a cold voice. In the black fog, an awakened person with a bow and a mustache came over with a smile on his face. Brother, what's your name? I see you're alone. Do you want to join a team? Go away. Bai Pu had no intention of being polite. The other party had already blatantly snatched experience, so what else could he say? Hey, this is your fault. The mustache said confidently, this Black Fog Valley is not yours alone. I also paid for psychic points to come in, so can't I kill monsters when I see them? Do you want to go away? Bai Pu raised his chin slightly, with a cold look in his eyes. Haha, you're a tank. Relying on your tough body and range magic damage, you dare to be so arrogant. The mustache saw that he couldn't fool Bai Pu, so he simply stopped pretending. I have an agility specialty, and my walking speed is faster than your running speed. What can you do to me? Bai Pu's body flashed with blood, and suddenly jumped high, and when he landed, he lashed a bone hammer in the air. He actually directly launched, jump slash, and attacked a mustache. The mustache man floated, green light flashed under his feet, and he jumped back 7 or 8 meters as if he was equipped with springs. He still had time to sneer. How many charge skills do you have? I'm going to fight you today. If you attract a monster, I'll kill one. However, before the mustache man could stand firm, a tall figure rushed over. The hilt of the giant sword hit his stomach, and the mustache man staggered instantly, looking like a lobster, with his eyeballs bulging out. A mouthful of acid water spurted out. The skeleton warrior launched a ruthless assault. Bai Pu's own attack power was really low, so he launched a jump slash, intending to feint, and the real killer move was the skeleton warrior. When the mustache man was hit stiff, the skeleton warrior swung the greatsword, slightly accumulated power, and then slashed vertically, and the mustache man's blood spurted out with one slash. The little mustache was horrified. He didn't expect that Bai Pu had a skeleton warrior servant beside him, and he didn't expect that this skeleton warrior was so strong. One skill plus one normal attack cut off most of his health. When the awakened encounter danger at the junction, there is no punishment constraint of the main task, and they can directly choose to leave the junction and return to reality. But in this way, it is equivalent to losing the opportunity to explore treasures and level up at the junction. Having said that, there is only one life. If you don't leave when you encounter fatal danger, and put your hope on the opponent's mercy, it would be too stupid. Even if you die, the law will not care. Go or not? If it were someone else, the little mustache might have to talk and beg for mercy. But Bai Pu's ruthless tone before, and the style of fighting at the slightest disagreement, made the little mustache feel that this was a fool, fearing that if he ran slowly, he would be killed by the opponent. So, a flash of white light, the little mustache's figure faded and disappeared, and he decisively left the junction of the Dead Bone Mountains. Bai Pu's expression was calm. The performance of the mustache was basically within his calculations. After driving the mustache away, Bai Pu continued his one-wave monster killing mission. His professional experience and combat expertise were steadily and efficiently improving. The Bone Mountain Range, the dangerous glacier area. This is a level 3 area marked on the map, and it is a dangerous area where boss-level monsters appear. In front of the frozen tomb, a 2-meter-tall, slender skeleton mage stood there, fighting with several awakeners. The skeleton mage exuded cold air, wearing a black-bottomed blue-patterned robe with blue ice crystals. With such an impressive appearance, it is obvious that it is a powerful boss-level creature. The ones fighting against the skeleton mage were none other than 3 students from the second term of the Shen-Set Army Genius Camp, the monk Taurus, who served as a tank, the shooter Mad Dog of unknown profession, who served as a DPS, damage output role, and the word Spirit Master Kirin, who served as an auxiliary. Hurry, the time for the magic resistance potion is almost up, hurry up and output. Kirin urged. The 3 of them were already panting, obviously reaching their limit. The skeleton mage leader they were fighting had half of his body broken, and several arrows were stuck in the cracks of his bones. Obviously, he was also seriously injured. The skeleton mage leader pointed his finger, and a little ice crystal condensed on his fingertips, and then shot out. The target was the Mad Dog with the highest output. Mad Dog moved in advance, dodging and moving. But the ice crystal spike, as if it had its own navigation, turned a little bit, and still hit the ribs of Mad Dog, causing frost damage and slowing effect. Don't be arrogant, use the skills when you need to. Kirin shouted, the boss has a high expertise in meditation, and there is trajectory correction. I know. Mad Dog said in a muffled voice, Taurus, buy me 3 seconds. As he said that, Mad Dog knelt on one knee, and a red light flashed on his body. The big bow was like the sunset, flashing gorgeous colors. Mad Dog struggled to pull the bowstring with his right hand. The bow that could be easily pulled at ordinary times seemed to be weighed down by a 1,000-pound weight at this moment. As the bowstring was gradually pulled, a slightly illusory red arrow slowly formed between the thumb of Mad Dog's left hand. The skeleton mage leader felt threatened and immediately raised his staff, put a layer of frost shield on himself, and then began to chant a spell. The cold thought wave spread throughout the field. Even if everyone did not understand the meaning of the spell, they were still terrified. Taurus punched and hit continuously, but the key force was weakened by the frost shield for the most part, and only a little was transmitted to the skeleton mage leader, who was unable to interrupt the opponent's spell. My broken jade fist is not prioritized enough and can't penetrate. Taurus said in a muffled voice. Before Taurus spoke, Kirin had already opened a golden book. He chanted the mantra and suddenly pointed at the skeleton mage leader, fire, fire, fire. Yan. 3 flames rose on the frost shield and suddenly turned into flames. Kirin uses fire to overcome ice. Under the condition of attribute restrained, it relies purely on fire damage to consume all the absorption of the frost shield. Taurus stepped forward and punched with a transparent fist, which shook the skeleton mage leader's body and made the brewing spell fail. Mad Dog, it's up to you. Taurus shouted. Here it comes. Mad Dog pulled the bowstring hard, and the gorgeous red arrow was fully formed, as if it was condensed from the sunset. Sunset arrow. Mad Dog shouted the name of his skill to increase his momentum. Whoosh! With a sharp whistle, the red arrow cut through the sky, dragging a gorgeous purple-red tail, and hit the skeleton mage leader. With the arrow landing point as the center, a group of blazing light like the sun exploded. The skeleton mage leader was already at low health, and after being hit by the sunset arrow, he went directly into a state of near death. It knelt on one knee and looked blankly at the broken sternum and the big hole in the chest. Crack! The skeleton mage leader turned into pieces of bones of varying lengths, scattered all over the ground. Success! The three were overjoyed. Being able to kill a leader-level skeleton mage with a 3-person elite team was definitely something to boast about. However, the next second, something strange happened. A figure quietly appeared beside the panting Mad Dog, and brazenly swung a knife and cut its throat. Chapter 32 Battle Shackles. Mad Dog's eyes flashed with disbelief, and he subconsciously covered his throat. His figure gradually faded and disappeared. It seemed that at the moment when the blade touched his body, Mad Dog reacted and chose to leave the border and saved his life. Be careful, Killen, the spiritual master with the highest spiritual attribute, had not yet uttered a word of warning when he saw Mad Dog being forced to leave. The thin figure rushed towards him, swinging the dagger wildly. After the battle, Killen did not even have the mental strength to put on the mantra shield. He could only rely on his hard-trained level 3 combat expertise and fight and retreat. Taurus pulled the equipment on the skeleton mage leader and quickly threw it into the storage space. He then strode over to protect Killen, but a light spot was projected from far to near, turning into a distorted field of light, trapping Taurus like a quagmire, and his speed was greatly reduced. Killen could only face the terrible enemy alone. The opponent was obviously agile and his close combat was as fast as the wind. With similar combat skills, Killen was completely unable to resist. After continuous injuries, 3 or 4 bloodstains deep enough to see the bone soon appeared on his body. The physical pain was secondary. What really frightened Killen was that he received a reminder from the will of the spirit world. The ordinary attack of the unknown enemy caused 27 sharp damage to you. You have been poisoned. The current number of layers is 1. Toxin effect. 3 health points are lost per second. The skill of the unknown enemy, Death Cross caused 21 sharp damage to you. You have been poisoned. The current number of layers is 3. Toxin effect. 9 health points are lost per second. Such a domineering poison, it can actually be stacked. Killen found that it was not good. God knows how many layers this poison can be stacked. With a mere 100 health points, if he is hit by 2 more knives, he will probably be poisoned to death. Although there are detoxification items in the storage space, Killen decided not to struggle and directly broke away and disappeared into light. The opponent sneaked up and killed Mad Dog first. The team lost its strongest man, and it was bound to lose if it continued to fight. On the glacier, in front of the tomb, there was only one Taurus left. He finally ran out of the deceleration field, but was stopped by the short and thin awakened person holding a dagger. Taurus glanced back and saw a woman in a white robe holding a magic wand not far away, with a cold look. "Who are you?" Taurus asked in a hoarse voice. He found that the 2 enemies did not turn on the psychic camera, which was obviously planned for a long time, and they did not hesitate to violate the rules of the border set by the military. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. If you want to survive in the border, hand over your psychic camera to me obediently. The short awakened voice was hoarse. Taurus shuddered. What do you want the psychic camera for? What do you think? The short awakened snorted coldly. Do you want to deal with the Bai Pu? Taurus thought of a possibility. His psychic camera is a standard military feature. In addition to the positioning function, he can check the location of several friends, and he can't think of any other uses. Jinyu also confirmed the other party's identity. He must be a member of the Superstar Alliance. He also heard a little about the grievances between Bai Pu and the Superstar Alliance. Don't worry, we can't kill anyone at the border, just teach him a lesson. The short awakener spread his hands, and 2 psychic cameras were quietly lying in his palms. He said coldly, even if you don't give it to us, the cameras left by your 2 companions are enough for us to catch Bai Pu's location. Then why do you still want mine? Jinyu stopped talking halfway. He realized the other party's purpose, to avoid himself from sending messages and warning Bai Pu. If he handed over the psychic camera, Bai Pu would be found by the 2 and expelled from the border. If he didn't hand it over, he would replace Bai Pu and be expelled from the border. Why didn't the two continue to attack him and forcibly snatch the camera? It was probably because he was a tank profession with thick skin and flesh, and the two didn't have the confidence to kill him in seconds. If he reacted, he would force himself to warn Bai Pu and all his efforts would be wasted. Jinyu struggled for a few seconds in his heart, and still handed over the psychic camera obediently. Go away. The short awakener waved his hand. Taurus retreated cautiously, and then retreated again. After retreating to a safe distance, he turned around and slipped away. The short awakener ignored him and lowered his head to check the 3 psychic cameras. Boss Yuchen, did you succeed? Asked the woman in the white robe. Well, we saw with our own eyes that the 3 of them added Bai Pu as their friend. The short awakener's voice was hoarse, and he especially emphasized the word Bai Pu, with a kind of hatred like a file. The woman in the white robe said bitterly, we have fallen to this point, all because of that damn experimental subject Bai Pu. It would be great if we could capture him obediently. He actually dared to plot against us, but in the end we lost the precious anchor, which we can't afford to pay for. The short awakener glanced at her coldly, and there is also the revenge for Juke, don't forget it. These 2 people are the remaining 2 members of the Stinger Squad, Yuchen and Hanguang. Han Guang's pretty face flashed with embarrassment, and she said, of course I remember, but Juke is dead, and we have to live. If we don't kill Bai Pu, we will never be able to turn over. The Stinger Squad lost the evolutionary source blood, and according to the agreement, they must compensate, but how can they afford it? Fortunately, Mr. Wu of the Super Energy Group has made it clear that as long as Bai Pu dies, the debt owed by the 2 of them for the source blood will be written off. Because after Bai Pu's death, the Super Energy Group has the right to obtain Bai Pu's body according to the clinical medical agreement, and the lost source blood can naturally be stripped out again. Of course, the actions of the 2 members of the Stinger Squad are personal revenge and have nothing to do with the Super Energy Group. Yu Cheng looked at the location on the psychic camera and squinted his eyes. Bai Pu is in the Black Mist Valley. Remember, our goal this time is not to force Bai Pu to leave the border, but to kill him with one blow. Han Guang said in surprise, you can't kill him at the border, right? Isn't the goal this time to expel him? The areas where awakeners usually train are nothing more than 3 places, the wilderness area, the border, and the spirit plane. The wilderness area is the wilderness of the real world, with countless mutant monsters and all kinds of strange and bizarre demonized plants. Many of the grudges and hatreds between the awakened are resolved in the wilderness area, as long as the bodies are destroyed and no evidence is left. The various planes of the spirit world are restricted by the main task, and it is not easy for the awakened to escape. The general escape props have a limit of 10 seconds of preparation and cannot be interrupted. But only the border area is not convenient for killing. The attacked awakened can escape from the border area and return to reality with just a thought. Just like the mad dog in the unicorn just now. Therefore, the plan that Han Guang learned at the beginning was to expel Bai Pu from the border area, leaving him nowhere to go. If he wanted to improve his strength, he could only go to the wilderness area or the spirit world, and that would be the time to start. Yu Cheng said lightly, don't worry about this, I have been prepared. As he set an item in his hand to the exhibition state. Battle shackles, bloody props. Can be used on awakened people. The space of the user and the target is in a stagnant state. During this period, neither can return to reality from the spirit world, nor can they be teleported from the real world to the spirit world. Duration: 60 seconds. The borderland is the intersection of reality and the spirit world, and the effect of the battle shackles also applies. Bloody props. Han Guang was shocked. This is the first time I have seen. This kind of props is strictly prohibited from being used in the borderland, right? Are you scared? Yu Cheng asked coldly. No, I didn't. Han Guang said with a lack of confidence. So I didn't tell you at the beginning. Yu Cheng's eyes flashed with a deep light. Now it's not a question of whether you and I want to use prohibited props, but we have no choice. Can you afford to pay for the evolution source blood? Han Guang shook his head dejectedly. After this job, we will go to Southeast Asia to avoid the limelight. Yu Cheng said lightly. Hearing that there is a way out, Han Guang breathed a sigh of relief. She probably also realized her weakness just now, and hurriedly made amends, suggesting, Boss Yuchen, do you want to use this psychic camera to send a message to Bai Pu and let him reunite with his friends? No. Bai Pu is with 3 people, but they are just members of the same organization, and their relationship is not close. Otherwise, when they fight the boss, they will definitely not leave Bai Pu behind to act alone. Yujin analyzed, especially, we don't know what the relationship is between this awakener named Jinyu and Bai Pu. If the relationship is very bad, wouldn't sending a message alert the enemy? Chapter 33 Talent Skill 3, Gene Fragment. Dark Mist Valley, early morning. Bai Pu walked out of the bunker and locked the door. Breathing the slightly musty air, Bai Pu stretched. After a few hours of rest, his dry mental power and exhausted blood spirit have been fully restored, and he can start the joyful monster-killing business again. Behind Bai Pu, there are two temporary servants, one tall and one short. The tall one is a skeleton warrior, and the short one is a bone mage. Bai Pu ordered the two servants to hide aside. Anyway, he uses flesh and blood armor to clear the monsters in one wave, and he doesn't need the help of two servants. These two servants are mainly to solve emergencies, such as the last time the Mustache Awakener came to steal experience. After another wave of monsters were cleared, you have obtained 2 life points, and the current life points are 101/100. Your talent, the talent skill 3 of the Heart of Evolution, Gene Fragments, activated. Bai Pu was delighted and checked immediately. Heart of Evolution, growable talent, unable to level up, talent skill 1, adaptive evolution. 3/4 of the stored forms, Herculean skin, fluid skeleton, cold body, talent skill 2, pure blood defense, pure blood 0/2, slave 2/2, talent skill 3, gene fragments, killing a strong person can harvest life source. You can consume life source and temporarily fuse the battle gene fragments of the dead strong. The gene fragments of the strong that have been stored are as follows. Below are rows and rows of phantoms of characters. Bai Pu saw the Blood Ring Hammerman, the Skeleton Warrior, the Bone Mage, and the Blood Ring Deformer with a giant right arm holding a bronze pillar. Finally, he even saw the Blood Hand column. In the lower right corner of each phantom, there is a corresponding life source point consumption. The Skeleton Warrior consumes the least, requiring 10-15 life points. The Blood Hand column consumes the most, requiring 50 life points. So, these are the strong men who were killed by me and absorbed their life source. Bai Pu frowned and thought. The introduction of the talent skill 3, gene fragment, was still a little unclear. What does fusion of the battle gene fragments of the dead strong mean? What effect will it have after fusion? Life source points are very precious, but in order to know the specific effect of the talent skill, Bai Pu still reluctantly spent 15 life sources. Designate the gene fragments of a skeleton warrior and temporarily fuse them. A stream of information poured into Bai Pu's mind, and at the same time, a warm current was pumped out from the heart and poured into Bai Pu's body. His eyes widened instantly, and his face was full of surprise. So, the effect of gene fragment is actually like this. It is indeed a gifted product of the Heart of Evolution, not inferior to the 2 Gaud-level talents of adaptive evolution and pure blood defense. Special Military Base, Lobby. It has only been a day, but many awakened people have returned from the junction of the Dead Bone Mountains. These awakened people basically all had gloomy faces, and gathered in groups of 3 or 5 to talk in low voices. The border was open for 10 days, which were extremely precious 10 days. Just think about how precious the free exploration time in the spirit world is. However, because of unexpected dangers, they had to leave early and only stayed in it for 1 or 2 days. The loss was immeasurable. In a corner of the hall, Killen was making a phone call through the virtual light screen of the personal information terminal. There was no figure of Mad Dog next to him. The image on the light screen was Li Ling. Her face was a little serious. You mean, someone attacked you, and it was the kind that killed you? Yes, I recalled that the 2 people had turned off the military's psychic cameras in advance. It was obvious that they were coming for us. It was not a simple monster robbery at all. The harvest at the border depends on one's ability. If the monster is robbed, you can only blame yourself for not being as skilled as others. The military will definitely not care, but turning off the psychic cameras violates the rules of the military. When the border is closed, the military will definitely investigate. Li Ling asked for a few details, frowned and said, "Where is Taurus? Is he still in the border area?" "He didn't get out. Mad Dog and I escaped in a panic, and didn't get back the military's psychic camera. Now I can't even send a message to Taurus." Killen said. "Taurus is a tank, it won't be killed instantly without even being able to get out. Li Ling didn't really think about the bloody props at first, mainly because that thing is too rare, and using it in the border area is a felony. That's good. Qilin also thought so. From what you described, the clothes, weapons, and fighting styles of the two people are very similar to the awakened team called Stinger that Bai Pu mentioned. Li Ling thought for a while, and suddenly his face was stern. Could the other party be coming for Bai Pu? Then it shouldn't be running away. We have suffered an unexpected disaster. Qilin shook his head and smiled bitterly. It seems that Bai Pu should come to accompany us soon. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Li Ling had a trace of worry between his eyebrows. She said in a deep voice, I'll come to the military base right away. Sister Ling, it's not that serious. Qilin was a little surprised. It was common for awakened people to fight in the border area. In general, no one would die, and the law would not care who robbed whose boss. Could the other party still have the ability to kill people in the border area? Qilin and Mad Dog and others were driven out of the border area. It can only be said that they were not as skilled as others. If they provoked the Transcend army behind them to come forward, that would be too much of a fuss, and it would be a joke if it was told to others. What do you know, a little kid who has only awakened for 2 years, how many of those sinister and vicious things have you seen? Li Ling scolded, and hurriedly said, I won't talk to you anymore. I have to go over there and apply for Bai Pu's psychic camera number to contact him. This is the difference between a military captain and a civilian awakened person like Qilin. They can touch different things and have different horizons and experiences. Black Mist Valley. Bai Pu cleared another wave of monsters, sat cross-legged on the ground, and carved blood and flesh spells. There was a deep joy on his face. After 2 days of hard work, he finally accumulated enough experience points and his occupation level was upgraded to level 2. Bai Pu enhanced Elite level 2, race, humanoid human, occupation, blood armor shield guard, occupational skills, flesh armor, attributes, strength 7, agility 7, endurance 19, spirit 11, combat specialties, advanced equipment, two-handed hammer, level 1, basic equipment, one-handed hammer, level 4, basic equipment, shield mastery, level 3, basic equipment level 2, basic combat level 4, combat skills, unstable shield, spin throw, jump slash. In addition to the obvious growth of the basic 4 attributes, Bai Pu's occupational skill, flesh armor, has also been improved, from 13 points of group magic damage per second to 15 points per second, and the range has also increased slightly. The upper limit of the shield value provided by flesh armor has also been increased from 30 points to 38 points, which is equivalent to twice the endurance attribute. Shield mastery is a new combat specialty that Bai Pu has learned after entering the border. I don't know if it's because of the high degree of professional compatibility, but the shield mastery expertise is improving very quickly. It took 2 days to reach the basic level 3, and it's not far from the advanced expertise. It's worth mentioning that the shield Bai Pu wears is a standard equipment, called City Guard Shield, and it's a reward from the Transcend army. The armor value of the shield covered part is plus 30 points. In the case of a successful block, the damage reduction effect is still very obvious. Suddenly, a beeping sound rang above Bai Pu's head. Chapter 34 Shadow Sentinel. The sound came from the psychic camera that had been floating above Bai Pu's head. Bai Pu had always treated the camera as non-existent, but he didn't expect someone to send him a message. He stretched out his hand, took off the psychic camera, and clicked the message button. Chirp, the psychic camera projected a virtual light screen, and lines of text messages appeared. Bai Pu, the awakened person number 97, this is a message from the main control room of the Jiangnan Special Military Base. Official Blue Letter Certification, Main Control Room, Bai Pu, I'm Li Ling. Listen carefully, you are in a very dangerous situation now. 2 awakened people from the Sting Squad have also sneaked into the border of the Deadbone Mountains. They are looking for you, Main Control Room. After receiving the message, please leave the border immediately. Bai Pu's eyes condensed slightly, and he stretched out his fingers and typed a reply on the virtual light screen. Number 97, I know, Sister Ling. Thank you for your reminder, but I don't want to go back, beep. Li Ling's message came even faster. Control room, don't be too brave, and don't think that the border is safe. Some bloody props targeting awakeners may prevent you from leaving the border temporarily. Number 97, I'm not being brave, but I have no way to retreat. Because there will always be a day when we meet them on a narrow road. Bai Pu raised his head, his eyes were very deep. After fusing the evolutionary source blood and being promoted to an awakener, Bai Pu gained a second life. Only after losing can you understand the value of gaining. Bai Pu cherishes his current vibrant life very much. But this does not mean that he has to be cautious everywhere and lock himself in an absolutely safe place to wait for death. On the contrary, Bai Pu will experience the wonderful world more attentively. For this reason, he must seize every opportunity to strengthen his combat power, fight the enemy, and find a glimmer of hope. Fight for survival. This time Bai Pu was warned in advance and can leave the border. But what about next time? What about the next time? The super energy group can send awakened killers endlessly, but Bai Pu cannot hide and retreat endlessly. He also wants to gain experience and strengthen his strength. Bai Pu will not be scared away by this experience at the border. There is one thing Bai Pu is very sure of, that the opponent's level will never exceed level 3. Since there are no intermediate or advanced awakeners participating, Bai Pu feels that his disadvantage is not great, and he is confident that he can fight the opponent. Beep. Control room. Okay, I can't persuade you, so I won't waste my energy. I have some information about bloody props here. I will send it to you for a look. Don't spread it to others. Number 97. Thank you. Bai Pu opened the document and was surprised to find that the information sent by Li Ling not only included bloody props, but also included information about 2 awakeners. Yi Xiao, codename Yechin, level 3 elite, professional shadow sentinel. Jin Wei, codename Hanguang, level 2 standard template, professional shaper. After reading the information, Bai Pu stood up. I don't know when the Stinger squad will come to us, but we can't stop. We can't be too unrestrained in the next monster hunting. We must retain most of our mental strength and blood spirit and be ready to fight at any time. Jianan Special Military Base, the main control room. This guy. Li Ling sighed. The base instructor Xiang Yinghu behind him showed a hint of appreciation. This kid is good. He has blood. I'm afraid he is blindly confident. Li Ling muttered and pleaded embarrassedly. Instructor Xiang, can you tell our people to rush to the Black Mist Valley now to secretly protect Bai Pu? Every time the border of the Dead Bone Mountains is opened, the military has the most places for awakened people to enter. No. Xiang Yinghu shook his head and refused neatly. Let's not talk about whether it complies with the regulations. Just look at this guy's attitude. I guess he won't let the soldiers be his nanny. Li Ling went out and made a phone call. After a while, Li Ling came in. Can you give me 2 more places to enter the Dead Bone Mountain range? I have issued a task within the Shenzhen army to send 2 level 3 elites in. Li Ling insisted. She couldn't explain why she attached so much importance to Bai Pu. Too late. Xiang Yinghu suddenly stared at the screen. Wow, they came so fast. How did they find Bai Pu's location accurately? Li Ling quickly looked at the large monitoring screen. A silent pantomime was staged on the screen. In the black fog, 2 figures appeared one after the other, blocking Bai Pu. A short man flashed with blood in his hand, and a slightly illusory chain had already connected him and Bai Pu. It's a battle shackle. Li Ling clenched her fists. It's a bloody prop indeed. Instructor Xiang, this is a serious crime. Understood. Xiang Yinghu raised his hand and pressed a red button in the control room, and a clear command sounded. Dongfeng Team 1, Team 2, move closer to the Black Mist Valley. There are 2 awakened people using prohibited props. Arrest them immediately. If they dare to resist, kill them on the spot. The coordinates are. After arranging the layout inside the junction, Xiang Yinghu arranged another team of awakened soldiers to wait outside the gate of the junction. If the 2 prohibited awakened people leave the junction, they will be arrested as soon as possible. Li Ling watched the battle on the screen with some distress. She had checked the intelligence of the 2 people in the Stinger squad, so she naturally knew their names and code names. In the picture, Yu Chang, whose profession is Shadow Sentinel, disappeared on the spot after binding the battle shackles, and then emerged from Bai Pu's shadow and cut his throat fiercely. Ling. Bai Pu was prepared after receiving the battle shackles message from the spirit world. He tried his best to dodge, but his speed was a little slow, and his shoulder took the blow. The iron spike shoulder guard and the dagger made a sharp sound of metal clashing. The dagger was wrapped in energy and pierced the flesh through the shoulder armor. A corrosive dark energy invaded. Unknown enemy's skill, Shadow Assault caused 9 sharp damage plus 25 shadow damage to you, An added poisoning effect, current layer. 1 layer. Toxin effect. 3 health points lost per second, very strong, it's mixed damage, and it's also poisoned. It seems that the poison can be stacked. Bai Pu's mind flashed. Little did he know that Yu Chang on the opposite side had already started cursing in the team channel. What kind of monster, newbie, actually has 380 HP? I only use less than 1/10 of my professional skills, and my flat attack can only deal single-digit damage. I am 1 level higher than him, with a 10% damage bonus. With a reduction of sharp damage from heretic skin, Bai Pu's own high 19-point basic armor damage reduction, plus the 10-point shoulder armor damage reduction from iron spike shoulder guard. It is normal that Yu Chang's flat attack does not cause double-digit damage. The light-filled magic wand waved, and a gray energy bullet shot out, causing non-attribute magic damage to Bai Pu. This is her basic magic skill as a shaper. The magic damage caused has no additional bonus, but it can be continuously output. After Yu Chang's flat attack, he followed up with Death Cross. The 2 daggers drew a cross of blood plums in the air, and Bai Pu's body was scratched with blood again. The Death Cross skill caused 7 plus 8 sharp damage to Bai Pu, a total of 15 points. Fuck. I can only stack the poisoning to the highest 3 layers first. He loses 9 health points per second. The duration of the 60-second battle shackles, plus his health recovery speed, is enough to kill him. Not to mention the continuous offensive suppression from Han Guang and me. Yu Chang calculated quickly in his mind. Yu Chang's calculations were very accurate, but he underestimated a little. Although Bai Pu is a newcomer, he is not a lamb to be slaughtered. Thank you for your support from the old brothers, such as rewards, votes, chapter comments, etc., so that this book can still be ranked among the top 3 new science fiction books in the case of no promotion. Thank you. This week's trial promotion. Now the recommendations are all PK promotion. Everything depends on the 24-hour follow-up data, the quality of which directly determines whether the book can advance to the next round. Don't keep the book, add 1 more chapter after advancing to the next round. Lawyer will also regularly contact the editor to understand the follow-up data, and add more chapters when it reaches 500, 1000. Add 1 more chapter at 12 o'clock today to show sincerity, show the thickness of the manuscript. I urge all new and old book friends to turn on the update reminder of this book and read it in time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Bloody Treasure Chest. You have been continuously damaged by toxins. Your innate skill, adaptive evolution, has stored a new form, inactivate blood. In the inactivate blood form, your heartbeat speeds up, the temperature of your blood continues to rise, your immune system operates strongly, and your ability to inactivate foreign toxins is improved. The damage caused by toxins is halved and the duration is halved. This is the 4th adaptive evolution form, which is very useful against toxins, but Bai Pu did not choose to switch, because when it changes to the new form, the original, keratin skin, form will be invalid, and there will be no reduction in the sharp damage caused by fish intestines. Bai Pu directly activated the professional skill, Flesh and Blood Armor. Flesh and Blood Armor is very weak against single enemies. The shield replenishment speed is 1 to 5 points per second, which is definitely not enough to keep up with the enemy's output. It can only temporarily delay the bleeding effect. So Bai Pu also activated the 3rd innate ability of Heart of Evolution, Gene Fragment. Spend 50 life points to temporarily fuse the battle gene fragments of the dead strong man, and lock on the target. Bloodhand Column. You temporarily fuse the battle gene fragments of Bloodhand Column. You temporarily gain 8 strength. Your combat expertise is temporarily upgraded to advanced level 5. Suddenly, Bai Pu felt as if he had been enlightened, as if he were the Blood Ring General of Brandon North, a lion that looked down upon all directions. You know, Bloodhand Column is the leader of the Blood Ring faction in the Brandon North region. He's equivalent to the regional boss. If it weren't for the bad luck of running into Duke William, he would definitely be a very tough nut to crack. It's my turn. Bai Pu's voice was steady and powerful. He slightly turned sideways to avoid Yu Chang's next dagger stab, and grabbed his opponent's wrist. This grab was very clever, It looked like Yu Cheng had stretched his wrist into Bai Pu's hand. Yu Cheng's eyes widened, and then he pulled back with force. But as he pulled back, he felt something was wrong. Bai Pu's right hand, like an alloy handcuff, tightly grasped his wrist, and he couldn't break free for a while. A tall figure rushed over like a whirlwind, and the hilt of the sword hit Yu Cheng's lower back. Immediately afterwards, the skeleton warrior charged up and prepared to launch a sweep. Skeleton warrior's skill, ruthless assault, caused 37 points of blunt damage to you. How come he has an elite monster as a thug? Yuchen's lower back seemed to be broken, and a thought of surprise flashed through his mind. Suddenly, Yuchen's wrist was as slippery as if it was greased, and he broke free from Bai Pu's control. He endured the pain of a broken lower back, rushed to the left, and barely avoided the skeleton warrior's charged sweep attack. However, Bai Pu's bone hammer had been waiting for a long time, sweeping from right to left. It looked like Yuchen took the initiative to hit the bone hammer. This hammer made Yuchen's stomach churn, and he almost vomited acid. Yuchen felt a little terrified. This was simply beyond cognition. Why did Bai Pu have such a strong sense of battle and overall view? And whose strength was not inferior to that of people with the same level of strength? Escape. Yuchen made a decision almost immediately. He ignored Hanguang, who was trying to read the spell and attack with energy bombs, and chose to escape. His heels suddenly ejected a rocket-like tail flame, and the whole person rushed forward 17 or 18 meters. Want to run? Bai Pu switched to the form of inactivate blood elephant, reducing the poison damage to 4 points per second and shortening the poison in duration to 5 seconds. He turned on unstable shield, chased for a few steps, and immediately launched jump slash, leaping over Yuchen's head, blocking in front of Yuchen, turning around and sweeping. Yuchen saw that the blood-red shield on Bai Pu's body was trembling slightly, and it was obvious that there was a powerful energy gathering and bursting. He had no intention of fighting and wanted to leave sideways, but the next second, a cold energy attacked him, making him feel cold to the bone. The battle prompt information of the spirit worlds will made him feel like falling into an ice cellar. An unknown enemy has cast a cripple spell on you. Your movement speed is reduced by 34%, and your attack speed is reduced by 34%. Based on your level suppression, 16% has been resisted. The greatly reduced movement speed made Yuchen unable to get rid of Bai Pu. He could only watch the blood-red shield explode. He only had time to protect his head and face with both hands for symbolic defense. Bang! Up to 57 points of shock damage, accompanied by the explosion of air waves. Yuchen was like a small boat in the raging waves, spinning and crashing out. The shock damage also added a deceleration effect, and the superposition of the effect of disability made Yuchen stagger and even difficult to move his legs. Bai Pu chased after him and punched out with a whistling punch. At this time, he had integrated the combat gene fragments of Bloodhand Columbus, and the most powerful and familiar way of attack was still fighting. This punch, with a spiral force, hit Yuchen's chin with a bang. Kaka! Yuchen seemed to hear the sound of his cervical vertebrae breaking, and the whole person was thrown high into the air, and blood spurted out with a puff. The skeleton warrior who had arrived with great strides had already accumulated enough energy. His tall body spun in a circle on the spot, and the giant sword swept across. A whirlwind strike. Yuchen's eyes bulged out. This sword emptied his last life value. Yuchen fell to the ground, half of his body was broken, and blood flowed happily like a stream. His bloody prop, battle shackles, on the contrary, became a noose that bound him and could not escape. There were still 23 seconds left. Why? Yuchen asked hoarsely. Bai Pu did not answer, and ordered the skeleton warrior to raise the great sword. Yuchen smiled miserably, and with his last breath, he roared, "Things are not over, this is just the beginning." The skeleton warrior chopped down with his great sword. Awakener, Yuchen is dead. Above Yuchen's body, a treasure chest with a blue background and a few blood-red threads was quietly suspended. On the other side, Han Guang, who was entangled by the undead mage, was unable to support Yuchen at all. Seeing Yuchen approaching death, she was even more frightened, and chose to leave before Yuchen died. You killed a hostile awakener in self-defense. You will not increase your blood value, and your current blood value is 0. You obtained a bloody treasure chest. The blood value of the relevant deceased is 4 points. When you draw a bloody treasure chest, it is easier for you to draw a high-valued item. Bai Pu walked over, his steps were firm and powerful. This was his first time to kill an awakener, but for some reason he was very calm and did not feel much discomfort. Putting his palm on the bloody treasure chest, Bai Pu chose to open it. With a swish, many cards with blood-red backs were swirling inside the treasure chest with a faint blood-red glow. Based on the blood value of the deceased, you can filter and exclude one of the following options. A. The psychic points carried by the deceased, number of cards. 2. B. The equipment worn by the deceased, number of cards. 8. C. Items in the storage space of the deceased, number of cards. 14. Bai Pu chose to exclude option C without hesitation. Suddenly, more than half of the blood-red cards swirling in the treasure chest turned into psionic particles like light smoke and dissipated, leaving only 10 cards. Immediately afterwards, these 10 blood-red cards flew out and hovered in front of Bai Pu. Based on the blood value of the deceased, you can filter and exclude 4 low-valued blood-red cards, in order from low to high. You can also choose not to exclude and directly draw. The current number of draws is 2. Bai Pu chose to exclude low-valued cards. Another 4 blood-red cards turned into light smoke and dissipated. In front of Bai Pu, only the last 6 blood-red cards were left. This should be the most valuable item on Yu Chang, basically all equipment. Bai Pu stretched out his hand and pointed, and the first blood-red card on the left flipped over, revealing a dagger pattern. Test the waters and push for more updates. Please turn on the update reminder, there will be more after the promotion. Chapter 36, Sting of the Manticore. You have obtained equipment, +3 Crimson Dagger. The blue light dissipated, and Bai Pu had a crimson dagger in his hand. The back of the dagger was curved like a shark's back, and there were dots of light flowing, which looked good. This is an elite blue equipment. Because of the +3 enhancement, the attack power is as high as 4-8, which is comparable to the basic attack power of two-handed weapons. In addition, this Crimson Dagger also comes with a very practical passive skill, blood-sucking. This weapon will steal 10% of the damage value for the holder to heal itself. The equipment extracted from the bloody treasure chest is the same as the equipment extracted from the normal loot treasure chest. They are all in a packaged state and can be used directly. The difference is that many of the equipment in the bloody treasure chest have been enhanced by the awakened person spending psychic points, but the equipment in the loot treasure chest does not have such a good thing. Unfortunately, the basic agility required for the Crimson Dagger is 10 points. Bai Pu can only move it, but cannot use it, and cannot exert its properties and special effects, so he put it away first. Then, Bai Pu clicked on the bloody card in the middle. Bai Pu was delighted in an instant. After the card was turned over, it flashed with golden light. The light faded, and a piece of equipment appeared in Bai Pu's hand. This equipment didn't look very good. It was about the size of a palm, black, and somewhat elastic, as if it was made of the internal organs of some animal. You have obtained equipment, +4 Scorpion Tail Lion Sting, Scorpion Tail Lion Sting +4, encapsulated, quality, hero, gold, equipment location, accessory, equipment requirements, none, attributes, agility +3, additional skills, poisoning. When poisoning a weapon and causing sharp damage to the enemy, you can stack Scorpion Tail Lion Poison, up to 3 layers. The poison lasts for 12 seconds and can be refreshed. The weapon poisoning lasts for 60 minutes. +4 special effects, toxin purification, passive, causing the Scorpion Tail Lion's poison to ignore the opponent's resistance and damage reduction ability, causing full damage. The additional priority of this effect is 3. Durability. 39/40 description. This is the venom gland of a powerful female manticore, made by a hermit in Sandstone City. It is indeed a gold equipment. Not only does it have a powerful skill of stacking poison, but it also comes with 3 points of agility. If Bai Pu can use this jewelry equipment, he can make up for his weakness in facing a single strong enemy. At the stage of low-level awakeners, no one can withstand 3 layers of manticore poison that ignores resistance. However, the manticore poison needs to be tempered into a weapon that can cause sharp damage. Bai Pu looked down at his smooth bone hammer. At this moment, he wanted to change it into a knife or a sword. I'll go to the quartermaster of the Shenzhen army and change a weapon. Anyway, it's a white outfit, so I don't feel bad about changing it. Bai Pu muttered. It is worth mentioning that toxin purification ignores the damage reduction effect and has an additional priority of 3. With the 2 points of priority of Yuchen as an elite profession, the overall priority is as high as 5 points. But Bai Pu's inactivate blood image form can forcibly break the effect of ignoring damage reduction and causing full damage. It seems that the priority of the Heart of Evolution talent is even higher than Bai Pu's imagination. Now, adaptive evolution has stored 4 evolutionary forms, namely, keratin skin, for sharp damage, fluid skeleton, for blunt damage, cold body, for frost damage, and inactivate blood image, for poison damage. Next, if you encounter a new type of damage and want to store a new form, you have to delete an old form, because adaptive evolution can only store 4 evolutionary forms at most. The influence of Bloodhand Column's gene fragment gradually faded, and the feeling of looking down on everything disappeared. The 8-point strength bonus disappeared, but the superb fighting skills of Bloodhand Column just now still left a deep impression on Bai Pu. He opened his attribute panel and found that his fighting expertise had actually improved a lot of proficiency, reaching advanced level 1. Unfortunately, after this fusion, Bloodhand Columbus's gene fragments have disappeared. Among the images of powerful people that can be fused in gene fragments, there is no Columbus anymore. Instead, there is the image of Yuchen. Just now, Yuchen died, and Bai Pu also absorbed his 3 life points. Before Yuchen died, he said that this is not the end, but just the beginning. Bai Pu thought silently, he is right. Super Energy Group will not stop retaliating against me, and I can't stop moving forward. I also want to seize the living tissue of the origin heart from Super Energy Group, and I want to be promoted to the hero profession. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. Bai Pu took off the iron spike shoulder guard, and once again traced the spell of flesh and blood armor. Jiannan Special Military Base, Control Room. Li Ling and Xiang Yinghu seemed to have watched a silent movie. After watching Bai Pu kill Yuchen, Li Ling and Xiang Yinghu looked at each other. The former was shocked, and the latter was surprised. Li Ling said first, Instructor Xiang, according to regulations, Bai Pu's video data must be kept confidential. Xiang Yinghu nodded, well, don't worry, I will definitely not say anything casually, and the video data will not be leaked to third parties unless necessary. After making the guarantee, Xiang Yinghu issued a notice to the 2 special operations teams in the border area, ordering them to cancel and continue the exercise as originally planned. The team of awakened soldiers guarding the entrance to the border area also reported that they had successfully captured the female awakened person, codenamed Han Guang. Go back and interrogate this woman and give me a copy of her confession. Li Ling said, this woman is a member of the Superstar Alliance. This assassination is definitely related to the Superstar Alliance. Her confession is evidence. You can't be too optimistic. These big consortiums and big forces are deeply rooted and regard the law as nothing. The country has long wanted to touch them, but it has no idea where to start. Xiang Yinghu shook his head and said, the Superstar Alliance wants to distance itself from it, and there are too many ways. The law emphasizes evidence. A single piece of evidence is not enough, and a confession is useless. Li Ling also knew that this was the fact, but the necessary efforts had to be made. I can't just watch the members of the genius camp of the Shen Set army being assassinated, and even bloody props were used, and do nothing. Xiang Yinghu nodded slightly, what you said is right. We should have the attitude of doing our best. Li Ling looked at Bai Pu on the surveillance screen and said softly, I thought Bai Pu was joking when he said he wanted to take the top score in the college entrance examination. Now it seems that he is not completely bragging. What? Xiang Yinghu thought he didn't hear clearly, and repeated, are you talking about the top scorer in the college entrance examination? After getting Li Ling's confirmation, Xiang Yinghu shook his head repeatedly. This young man can only be said to have good potential, but his level is too low. It is impossible for him to get the first place in the country. That's because you don't know how long Bai Pu has been awakened. Li Ling could not express her shock in words. It has only been about a month since he awakened, and Bai Pu has already risen to level 2. Facing the sneak attack of 2 level 3 awakeners, he was able to kill one and drive away one. She felt more and more that Bai Pu was a good seedling with unlimited potential. Not long after, Li Ling received a message. Her brows immediately frowned. Sure enough, just as the instructor speculated, the Superstar Alliance had already expelled Sting and Han Guang 3 days ago, on the grounds that the two had caused huge losses to the group. Li Ling sighed. It seems that this time, There is no way to follow the clues and teach the super energy group a lesson. Chapter 37 Times have changed, my lord. In the next few days, Bai Pu has been leveling up in the vast Black Mist Valley. The super energy group seemed to be honest and did not send other awakened people to hunt down Bai Pu. Bai Pu guessed that Li Ling should have contributed to this. Occasionally, other awakened people passed by the Black Mist Valley and saw Bai Pu clearing monsters in one go. They expressed their desire to form a team, but Bai Pu politely declined. Most awakened people are still very reasonable. They will go to other places in the Black Mist Valley to find monsters to fight and gain experience. A few blind awakened people, like the mustache, wanted to grab monsters and share experience points, but they were all sent away by the skeleton warriors and bone mages controlled by Bai Pu. Finally, it was time to close the border of the Bone Mountains. The military's psychic camera sent a unified command, and all awakened people left the border within a minute. This trip to the Bone Mountains has gained a lot. Bai Pu looked up and looked at the black mountains in the distance that looked like the back of a whale. That was the level 3 area of the Bone Mountains. Bai Pu did not explore this time, but he did not regret it, just a little regretful and curious. With a flash of light, Bai Pu left the border. A slightly noisy sound rang in his ears. It was the awakened soldiers who were maintaining order. One by one, the awakened who left the border lined up and went out along the exit of the passage. Everyone had to be inspected and hand in their psychic cameras when leaving. Bai Pu finished the inspection, handed in the camera, and was about to leave when he suddenly saw a familiar figure, Taurus. Killin and Mad Dog were not with Taurus. "Where is your psychic camera?" the soldier in charge of recording asked kindly with glasses. Taurus searched left and right, and finally shook his head. "It's gone. It seems to be broken. Leave your number, name, and organization. After checking that there is no problem, you can leave after paying the compensation fee for a psychic camera." The soldier with glasses did not make it difficult for Taurus. After all, the control room was watched by someone the whole time. If someone was bold enough to try to destroy the border, the alarm would have been sounded long ago. Retrieving the psychic camera now is just a formality. Jinyu agreed, but turned around and saw Bai Pu. He was slightly startled, forced a smile, greeted Bai Pu, and then looked away. Bai Pu sighed secretly. His mind was so sharp that he had guessed the whole picture of the matter. Why could Yuchen and Hanguang find him accurately in the vast Black Mist Valley? They must have their own location, and their location can only be obtained through the other 3 members of the Genius Camp. Killin and Mad Dog were not there, probably because they were sent away in advance, and they didn't even have time to take away the psychic camera. Jinyu stayed at the border, but the psychic camera disappeared. What does it mean? He probably reached a deal with Yuchen. Of course, Jinyu can also insist that his psychic camera was damaged by the enemy in the battle. Bai Pu didn't say anything and turned to leave the hall. Outside the military base, there were many trucks lined up, with many colorful flags and signs with the names of some companies written on them, and many formally dressed company white-collar workers waiting at the makeshift tables, which looked quite lively. As soon as Bai Pu went out, a fragrant breeze blew over him. A beautiful white-collar lady in a skirt suit and with charming curves came to greet him enthusiastically. "Dear Awakener, congratulations on your great harvest at the border. Do you have a lot of discarded equipment to sell? Our Hongaian Equipment Recycling Company has a very favorable recycling policy, and the price is absolutely fair. Would you like to go with me to learn more?" The beautiful white-collar lady warmly hugged Bai Pu's left arm, and the soft touch came through the clothes. Bai Pu struggled slightly and said, "Sorry, I have already made an appointment in advance." He walked straight to a military green jeep. There was still a voice behind him. "Which company? Do you want to compare the discounts of the 2 companies? Our Hongaian company guarantees that you will not suffer a loss." "No need, this is our Dadan people." Li Ling, who was leaning against a car door, took off her brown glasses and revealed a slightly sharp look. The beautiful white-collar lady looked at the white shirt that bulged high on Li Ling's chest, then looked down at her own white shirt that was obviously smaller than her chest, and walked away tactfully. "Isn't Dadan Group mainly engaged in pharmaceuticals?" Bai Pu opened the car door and asked casually. "What era is it now? Which big power doesn't operate across industries?" Li Ling followed and got in. After closing the car door, he got straight to the point. "This time was very thrilling. Fortunately, your strength has improved rapidly, beyond my imagination. Actually, I am mentally prepared. Super Energy Group can't stand it. Bai Pu said. I have already held the Superstar Alliance accountable on behalf of the Shense army, but the result may not satisfy you. Li Ling coughed lightly and told the Superstar Alliance about the early expulsion of Yu Cheng and Han Guang. It's expected. I should still thank the organization. If I were a rootless duckweed, the Superstar Alliance would probably not even bother to do this kind of superficial work. Bai Pu smiled. In the next 7 or 8 days, no new assassins came, and it was also because you and the organization attached great importance to this matter. Li Ling sighed. You go back to the Zichen branch first, I'll stay here, I still have something to do. Zichen branch of the Shense army. Bai Pu got out of the car and entered the hall. Bai Pu, you're back. Qilin was sitting in the hall chatting with Suzai Oxio. When he saw Bai Pu coming in, his eyes lit up. Yes. Bai Pu yawned slightly. Miss, my storage space is full. It's all unpackaged discarded equipment. Will the organization take it? Of course. Suzai Oxio had already happily run to Bai Pu and touched Bai Pu's shoulder. I heard that you encountered danger this time. How is it? No injuries, right? Qilin was a little speechless. As long as the awakened person didn't die on the spot, even if the injury was serious, it would have recovered in so many days. It's none of your business. Suzai Oxio rolled her eyes at Qilin. But speaking of it, Bai Pu, you are really great. You helped me and Mad Dog to vent our anger. Qilin obviously learned the news of Bai Pu's counterattack against Yu Cheng through Li Ling's channel. Just don't blame me. Bai Pu said. At first I felt a little resentful. But then I thought, we are all from the same organization, and we have to stick together. If I get angry at you because of this, who will help me when I get into trouble in the future? That resentment will naturally disappear. Qilin said calmly. This is the truth, but only a few people can think this way. Bai Pu smiled at Qilin. Okay, Zio Bai Pu, are you going to exchange your equipment for psychic points or Chinese currency? Suzai Oxio asked. What's the ratio? Bai Pu has always been curious about how much psychic points are worth. The current price in major state-owned banks is 59 Chinese yuan for 1 energy point, but they only accept energy points for redemption, not for redemption. So the official price can only be used as a reference. Suzai Oxio said, energy points are the circulating currency in the world of awakeners. Because strengthening equipment consumes a large amount of energy points, its price is generally quite strong. Awakeners rarely use energy points to exchange for money, so in private exchanges, 1 energy point may be exchanged for more than 100 yuan. There is no exact number. Qilin covered his face and sighed. It is said that when the psychic age just started, energy points were very valuable. It was no problem to exchange 1 energy point for 10,000 yuan. You could become a millionaire by just killing a few mutant beasts in the wilderness. It's a pity that the good times are gone forever. Don't you see how many awakeners were there in the early days of the psychic age? And how huge the number of awakeners is now? Suzai Oxio said disdainfully, times have changed, sir. There is a bug in the previous article. Mad Dog and Qilin's psychic cameras were seized, so the reason why the Stinger team asked for Taurus camera was not for positioning, but to prevent Taurus from warning Bai Pu. Taurus' mistake was to compromise with the enemy and had no way to warn Bai Pu. Sorry. The previous article has been corrected. Chapter 38 Bai Pu, you are such a generous person. Bai Pu understood that energy points were more precious and could be exchanged for money at any time, but with money, there were few opportunities to exchange for energy points. The main reason was that awakened people were generally not short of money. Poor in literature but rich in martial arts, how many awakened people who could successfully reach the critical value of 20 attributes and pass the trial were from poor families? People like Bai Pu were an exception. Bai Pu was so poor that he was reluctant to exchange energy points for money. Just like this time when recycling equipment, he still chose to settle with energy points. Suzai Oxio brought Bai Pu to a waste equipment recycling warehouse, and Qilin also followed them shamelessly, saying that he wanted to broaden his horizons. Bai Pu raised his hand, and one piece of waste equipment after another poured out from the storage space, forming a small river of equipment. Qilin's jaw almost dropped to the ground. Turtle, how many pieces of equipment are there? You didn't empty the Dead Bone Mountain range, did you? There are only 10 cubic meters of equipment. Bai Pu shook his head and said, the Dead Bone Mountain range is very large. I should have only cleared 90% of the skeleton monsters in the Black Mist Valley. 90% of the entire Black Mist Valley. Killen murmured. Suzaoxio quickly called for the staff at the base to come over to sort and weigh them, and she was responsible for calculating the price. While waiting, Bai Pu took out a book again. Bai Pu, have you ever thought about giving yourself a code name? Killen whispered, how about going with a zoo style and keeping in line with us? I've thought about it for you. Bai Pu didn't even raise his head, thinking, Killen is not a zoo style. Hey, my name is Konki, so I named it Killen. Who said that the mythical beast is not an animal? Killen continued in a low voice, your name is Honey Badger, isn't it cool? Honey Badger, known as the flat-headed brother in the animal world, is a fearless animal. Killen inexplicably felt that it was very suitable for Bai Pu. No. Bai Pu ended the chat and continued reading. Okay, the total is 10,928 psychic points. Suzaoxio pulled Bai Pu to look at the detailed list. Bai Pu glanced at it and confirmed that it was correct, so he nodded in agreement. After the transaction, Bai Pu's psychic points directly broke through the 20,000 mark. I sold so many discarded equipment, which can be regarded as a contribution to the organization. Do you have any benefits? Bai Pu asked seriously. Suzaoxio was stared at by Bai Pu, and she thought about it inexplicably. What benefits? Don't look at me like this, I'm very traditional. Free food and accommodation. Bai Pu's account had no money left, and eating became a problem. Is that so? No problem. Suzaoxio clicked on the personal information terminal. I can make the decision on such a small matter. I will enable the free board and lodging fee permission for your ID card, but it is limited to you eating. In fact, the professional soldiers and awakened people of the Shen Set army all have the benefit of free board and lodging fees. It is not a big problem to give Bai Pu a small green light, so Suzaoxio agreed so readily. Killen sighed, you have earned more than 10,000 energy points in 10 days. You are a millionaire. Why do you care about this little food and lodging fee? Bai Pu coughed lightly, I keep the energy points for use. In addition to being used for trading between awakened people, the main use of energy points is to strengthen equipment. Equipment is strengthened to +4, +7 and +10, which are all key strengthening levels, and will randomly obtain strengthening special effects. Of course, Bai Pu has no equipment worth strengthening now. The most valuable accessory, Sting of the Manticore, has been strengthened to +4 by Yucheng and obtained the first strengthening special effect. There is no point in going up to +5, because there is no improvement unless the accessory reaches the key level, unless it can be pushed to +7, but that is too difficult. After the equipment is strengthened to +4, the failure rate is very high, and each failure will cause the strengthening level to be reset to 0. After strengthening to +7, including impact +7, the failure rate is even higher. After failure, not only the strengthening level is lost, but even the equipment will be broken. Other weapons such as the smooth bone hammer should be strengthened, but Bai Pu has already made up his mind to replace it. The iron spike shoulder guard is not a main body armor, so strengthening it is not very meaningful. After having a meal in the restaurant, Bai Pu returned to his room and fell asleep. In the 10 days at the junction, he did not have a good sleep. At most, he took a nap for 2 hours to restore his dry mental power. Now he needed to catch up on sleep. He slept until the next day. After Bai Pu got up, the smart assistant Bai sent a series of messages. Bai Pu scanned the messages and selected the important ones to reply. 966XXXX 4068, Bai Pu, I am Jin Niu. I'm sorry, I didn't know those people wanted to kill you, and I didn't know they had prepared bloody props. I thought they just wanted to drive you out of the junction and teach you a lesson. I am willing to compensate, and I hope you can forgive me. Then came the message from Li Ling. Li Ling, Bai Pu, I talked to Jin Niu, and he wants to compensate you with a set of virtual combat training equipment. Do you think it's feasible? Bai Pu replied to Li Ling first. Bai Pu, that's unnecessary. I didn't expect him to sacrifice his own interests to protect me. At most, I won't add him as my friend anymore. Li Ling, are you sure? A set of virtual combat training equipment costs more than 300,000 yuan. Bai Pu's eyes widened. He replied immediately. Bai Pu, since he apologized sincerely, it would be bad for me not to accept it. After all, we are all from the same organization. Li Ling, okay, then where should I install it for you? I'm afraid your room won't be able to accommodate it. Bai Pu thought about it. Bai Pu, Let's install it in Zichen number 17 middle school. The college entrance examination is about to begin. I just happen to be going to Zichen number 17 middle school to concentrate on studying hard. Li Ling, donate or borrow? Bai Pu, donate. After the college entrance examination, I guess I won't need that set of equipment anymore. Li Ling, thank you on behalf of my alma mater. Bai Pu, don't be in a hurry to thank me. The school wants this set of equipment with conditions. Bai Pu, the cafeteria must provide meals, free of charge. Li Ling waited for a long time before replying. Li Ling, okay, no problem, I will arrange a dormitory for you. Bai Pu, thank you. After ending the communication with Li Ling, Bai Pu sent another message to 966XXXX 4068. Thank you for your compensation, I am not angry at all. 966XXXX 4068, great, thank you Bai Pu, you are such a generous person. System notification, blue font. 966XXXX 4068 requested to add you as a friend. Do you agree? Bai Pu click no without hesitation. Zichen number 17 middle school. The military green jeep stopped. The students of the combat class of number 17 middle school stood on both sides of the main road, lining up to welcome them. The old principal held Li Ling's hand and said, thank you, thank you. Li Ling, you really don't forget your roots. I have applied for this equipment from the bureau countless times, and you practice Tai Chi with me every time. Now, the students in the combat class can finally practice more efficiently. Li Ling looked at Bai Pu with some embarrassment and said, old principal, our Dadan group's donation is also conditional. We have to give priority to Bai Pu to use this equipment. Of course. Beside the old principal, the head teacher, Mr. Ren, quickly assured. In addition, please ask the school to help solve Bai Pu's food and accommodation before the college entrance examination. The old principal was stunned. Then, are there any special requirements for food and accommodation? No special requirements, just the same as other students. Li Ling confirmed. The old principal laughed. That's no problem. Bai Pu looked at the students standing solemnly on both sides of the road like little poplars, and frowned slightly. Li Ling understood and said, Teacher Ren, let the students disperse. There are only 10 days left before the college entrance examination, and everyone's time is very tight. Teacher Ren nodded and called the students in the combat class to leave. The old principal called a girl over and said, this is Xiai, my granddaughter. Xiai, take Bai Pu to the cafeteria and dormitory to get familiar with him. Chapter 39, The Young Girl's Troubles. The girl named Xiai agreed. She had a ponytail, long eyes and eyelashes, a round face, and her cheeks looked like she was holding two small buns when they were puffed up. After Bai Pu and Xiai left, the old principal asked in confusion, Li Ling, what is the background of this classmate Bai Pu? He came to the school for a few days, and the Dadan group was willing to donate such expensive equipment. This matter is weird everywhere. Li Ling looked around and whispered, old principal, this set of equipment is actually compensation given to Bai Pu by others. Bai Pu donated it to the school himself. Huh? Then why did he use the name of the Dadan group? Li Ling sighed lightly. Bai Pu told me that if he donated in his personal name, the school would mistake him for a rich man and have too many material expectations of him, which would cause him unnecessary psychological burden. The old principal sighed lightly. This child is very kind, but a little over-defensive. He thinks human nature is too greedy. Li Ling said, this may be related to his growth experience. Bai Pu was abandoned by his parents when he was young and grew up in a shelter. Due to physical reasons, he has never had many friends, and he even dropped out of school to recuperate before completing the country's compulsory education. He is wary of many people, including me. The old principal understood Bai Pu's growth experience and felt sad. He said with emotion, he is really a towering tree that grew up among the weeds. It is rare for him to maintain a kind heart despite such a gloomy childhood. It is human nature to overprotect himself. There is nothing wrong with that. Bai Pu, this is the classroom of Senior 3. You can come here anytime you want to attend classes. Bai Pu, this is the dormitory area. The school has arranged a separate dormitory for you. I will take you to the doorman to get the key. Bai Pu, the cafeteria is in front. I will give you my meal card. The money in it should be enough for your meals these days. Xiyu was very lively. He jumped all the way like a happy little deer. Bai Pu's eyes seemed to be out of focus. In fact, he was reciting the contents of the textbook in his mind. At the same time, he was distracted and listened to Shi Yi's explanation of the layout of the school. Shi Yi handed Bai Pu her meal card. On her meal card, there was a sticker of a green cartoon frog. Bai Pu took the meal card and asked, "Give me your meal card, what about your meals?" Shi Yi smiled and narrowed his eyes. "My grandfather lives in the school, I can eat with him." "When does the college entrance examination start this year?" Bai Pu put away the meal card. "Oh, you are the first candidate I have ever seen who doesn't know the time of the college entrance examination." Shi Yi complained, "The college entrance examination starts on June 7th and ends on the 9th. It has not changed for many years. There are still 12 days. Bai Pu said. "Well, in fact, everyone has no mood to review at this time. After 3 mock exams, you have learned everything you should learn. Next, it depends on your performance on the spot." At this point, Shi Yi suddenly said, "Oh," and woke up. "You are an awakener, you have to take the awakening test, right? It is different from our ordinary test. After you finish the cultural subjects and the simulated fighting subjects, you still have to go to the mirror plane to take the exam for the spiritual world exploration subject. The spiritual world exploration subject is held in the mirror plane of the spiritual world. The Chinese college entrance examination in the real world is a world event with far-reaching influence, which has been recognized by the will of the spirit world. The will of the spirit world has specially opened up a mirror plane to put the awakened candidates in batches into multiple completely identical plane worlds. The harvest they explore in the mirror plane will be converted into the score of the spiritual world exploration subject. Bai Pu had learned before that the score of the spiritual world exploration subject has a high weight, accounting for 60% of the total score of the awakening paper. The other 2 items, cultural subjects and simulated combat, each account for 20%. In the final analysis, the value of the awakened is measured by the ability to explore the spiritual world. Bai Pu thought to himself that this should be a major good news for him. After all, Bai Pu awakened too late. Although he has reached more than half of the experience value of level 2 after hard training in the Dead Bone Mountains, it is impossible to reach level 3 in the remaining 12 days. Among the border areas recently opened in China, there is no border area like the Dead Bone Mountains, where there are many ignorant and brainless skeleton monsters. Bai Pu can clear the monsters in one go, mainly relying on the 2-minute group magic damage effect of flesh and blood armor. Any enemy with a little bit of intelligence will flee when Bai Pu activates flesh and blood armor. So if it is another group of monsters, Bai Pu really does not have the ability to clear them quickly. Think about it, it took Killen and others more than a year to reach level 3, and you will know how slowly the awakened people's level increases. If the college entrance examination only tests hard power, Bai Pu may not be the opponent of those elite second-generation strong people. Under the conditions of simulated battles, the second talent of Heart of Evolution, Pure Blood Defense, will be reduced by more than half, because there are no suitable monsters to enslave. Now that there is a subject of spiritual exploration, Bai Pu's grasp is naturally greatly improved. I still can't be optimistic. I have to see my shortcomings. My combat expertise is still a shortcoming. I only have the combat expertise of level 1 and the 2-handed hammer expertise of level 1. Compared with those geniuses who have been honing their combat skills since childhood, the gap is obvious. The last time he fought against the killer Yuchen, Bai Pu temporarily experienced the combat expertise of the Bloodhand Column Gundam at level 5, and he still remembered the power of combat expertise. Fortunately, this trip to the Black Mist Valley to kill monsters has gained a lot of life source points, and also stored many powerful gene fragments of skeleton warriors and bone mages. These elite undead monsters have clear combat expertise. For example, many skeleton warriors have combat expertise of level 3, and many have 2-handed sword expertise of level 3. Bai Pu plans to use his 3rd talent ability, Gene Fragment, in the next 10 days to experience the battle under high expertise. This is equivalent to having countless teachers who are personally demonstrating and teaching Bai Pu, and the speed of progress is definitely much faster than that of ordinary awakeners. Early morning. Shi Yi was wearing a blue sailor suit, standing on the empty playground, facing the personal information terminal suspended in front of her, and turned on the accompaniment. With the sunrise as the background, she danced a cheerful dance full of energy. Video, dancing in a sailor suit, recording completed, can be uploaded. She opened a short video website and uploaded a video of dancing in a sailor suit. So you are a short video webmaster? Bai Pu's voice sounded. She was startled, and when she saw that it was Bai Pu, she couldn't help but get angry. When did you come? Why didn't you make a sound? I came earlier than you, but you just didn't notice me. Bai Pu asked curiously. You are not shy to dance for so many netizens, why can't you even let me, a classmate, see it? That's different. Shi jumped up. Bai Pu waved his hand. It's okay, actually you don't have to mind. I have been reciting silently, just glanced at you, didn't look carefully. Looking at Bai Pu's figure leaving, Shi felt even angrier. I dance so beautifully, and there are many dad fans on the website praising me. He was lucky enough to meet one of them, but he didn't even look at me. What a straight man with no aesthetic taste at all. Shi recalled that these days Bai Pu seemed to have been cycling between the classroom, the cafeteria, the dormitory, and the virtual battle room, very regularly. As the college entrance examination was approaching, the classmates had gradually gotten used to the fact that there was such a strange person on campus. Every time Bai Pu walked into the classroom or the cafeteria, the girls would secretly look back at Bai Pu, restrain their toothy laughter, and try to sit up straight to show their quiet and elegant side. Then they would secretly look back to see if the bright and handsome boy had noticed them. However, Bai Pu had never looked at anyone straight in the eye. His eyes, like the morning stars in the night, seemed to have no focus and had never focused on anyone. The classmates in the class had also talked about Bai Pu. The girls asked where this top-notch young man came from. He was so handsome that people couldn't take their eyes off him, and he was also a genius who awakened early. Some boys said sourly that Bai Pu was not a young man. He grew up in a shelter and dropped out of junior high school. He came to number 17 middle school to study purely for show, and he was not good at cultural subjects. Many girls didn't believe it and went to ask Shi Yi. What can Shi Yi say? She can only keep silent. But Shi Yi knows that those boys are telling the truth. Rationally analyzing, it is impossible for Bai Pu, who dropped out of junior high school, to get excellent cultural subject scores with just these 10 days of hard work. So why did Bai Pu work so hard? Shi couldn't think of an answer. Does Bai Pu know that his classmates are talking about him like this? Shi doesn't know. She only knows that Bai Pu definitely doesn't care about these discussions. Just like a high-flying eagle, it doesn't care whether the poultry on the ground will comment on the shadow of the eagle cast on the earth. Thinking of this, Shi has a little trouble, which comes from the girl's green and ignorant heart. She doesn't like fighting, she likes dancing, and she is from two different worlds with Bai Pu. Maybe these 10 days are the only time they get along in their lives. Whether Shi is happy or not, time passes day by day, and the calendar of the countdown to the college entrance examination is also turning page by page, and finally fixed on the number 0. The college entrance examination in 806 of the psychic era is here as scheduled. Chapter 40. Bai Pu handed in a blank paper. Sitting in the examination room of the college entrance examination, Bai Pu was surprisingly calm. The spacious classroom was arranged in 4 rows of desks in the order of 7,887, totaling 30 desks. The radio played classical music, the sun always comes after the rain, and then there was routine discipline education. As an awakened person, you cannot rely on special talents or abilities to cheat in the college entrance examination. Each examination room has psychic monitoring equipment, and whoever activates a skill will immediately alarm. I reiterate that the fairness of the college entrance examination is of vital importance, and it is related to the world event rewards issued by the will of the spirit world. If a cheater gets a place above the silver list, the will of the spirit world will not recognize it. If you lose the reward for the world event because of this, you will be a sinner of China. The 2 invigilators were busy checking, unpacking, and distributing test papers like clockwork robots. When the dust settled and all the candidates began to write furiously, the 2 invigilators breathed a sigh of relief and stood in front and behind the examination room, entering a boring time of counting grids. The cultural subjects of the Awakening volume have 4 papers: history, philosophy, biology, and geography. The 4 papers are distributed at a time, and the test time is from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, a total of 6 hours. Eat lunch? Go to the toilet? No need. As an awakener, you don't even have this little patience. It's embarrassing to tell others about it. Unlike the subjects before the psychic era, these 4 subjects are all in the service of psychic civilization. Bai Pu opened the history paper and unexpectedly found a short answer question. Please briefly describe the life of Friedrich William, a famous historical figure in Northern Europe in the 17th century. The Elector of Brandenburg, the founder of the Kingdom of Prussia, the ancestor of the German Emperor, Duke William. I didn't expect that we would meet in this way. Bai Pu sighed slightly, and then wrote it down quickly. Friedrich William, also translated as Frederick William. Born in Köln, the Berlin city palace. He continued to expand his territory during his reign, forcing Poland to give up its sovereignty over Prussia. He attached importance to the development of industry and commerce, dug canals, rewarded culture, and accepted immigrants. He reorganized the army, suppressed local forces, and strengthened centralization. Bai Pu wrote about Duke William in the real world and European history. As for Duke William in the origin plane of flesh plague, he was a strong man born under the evolution of the rules of the will of the spiritual world. The more famous and legendary Duke William was in real history, the stronger the strength or power of Duke William in the spiritual plane. This is the relationship between the real world and the source plane. The source plane is a plane world generated by the will of the spiritual world by taking a certain period of history and a certain area in the real world as the background, adding some elements of supernatural power. Therefore, learning history well is helpful for exploring the spiritual world. Although the historical figures in the spiritual world after evolution may have changed beyond recognition, at least some references can be provided. After finishing the simplest history volume, Bai Pu turned to the philosophy volume. Situational discussion questions. World plane, dragon soul, revival of ancient martial arts. Time, late 19th century, early 20th century. Location, Asia, China. Background, the great powers are rampant in China, the Qing court is corrupt and incompetent, the people are ignorant and numb, ancient martial arts are unable to resist foreign guns and artillery, and are gradually declining. The kindling dragon turns over, the Chinese dragon energy revives, and the ancient martial arts that are about to end are given new vitality. Situation, the leader of the Boxer Rebellion, Zhu Hongdeng, sneaks into the Qing court and holds the Empress Dowager Cixi hostage, intending to change the Empress Dowager Cixi's policy of changing appeasement to suppression towards the Boxers, so that the Boxers will return to the path of supporting the Qing in destroying foreigners, and fight against foreign countries. Please persuade the Empress Dowager Cixi from the perspective of primary and secondary contradictions. This big philosophical question is to test the eloquence of the awakened. Moreover, the question has already hinted at the angle of primary and secondary contradictions, so this question is very simple, and there is no alternative answer. Bai Pu has memorized philosophical theories very well. Although he doesn't like to chat with people, he is absolutely first class in eloquence when it comes to debate. Soon, a colorful admonition was written. There is also a biology paper later, which tests the awaken's ability to collect precious parts and materials from demonized monsters and mutated monsters. The geography paper tests the awaken's vision of exploring the terrain and digging for psychic minerals. Education serves the needs of the country, and this is absolutely true. The country now needs awakened people who are capable of collecting and digging for psychic materials, which is reflected in the college entrance examination paper. It took Bai Pu only 2 hours to complete the test paper that took 6 hours to complete, and he also checked it once. Originally, he wanted to hand in the paper, but the invigilator waved his hand to refuse, saying that it was not allowed to hand in the paper in advance after the exam started. Bai Pu did not dare to violate the exam discipline, so he could only lie on the table and sleep to replenish his energy. The invigilator saw this scene and shook his head helplessly, thinking to himself that this was another poor student. Although the cultural subjects only accounted for 20% of the score in the awakening paper, it must be taken seriously. If you sleep during the exam, you may not be able to enter the top 8 universities. However, sleeping is not against the rules, so the invigilator will naturally not care. The long 6 hours finally passed. Hey, candidate, don't sleep. The invigilator wordlessly woke Bai Pu up and took away his answer sheet. Bai Pu stretched his sore arms, loosened his muscles, and soon became energetic. He followed the crowd and walked out of the examination area. The outside was crowded with parents who were sending their children to the exam, and each of them stretched their necks and looked forward to it. Bai Pu had no one to send him to the exam, so he walked to the school sign of number 17 middle school. The gray-haired old principal was struggling to hold the school sign of Zichen number 17 middle school above his head, and behind him were several teachers from the 3rd year of high school. This is a metaphor for the college entrance examination. The higher the school sign is held, the better the students will perform. It also means the score passes the line, which is the same as before the psychic era, when parents wore cheongsems and high heels to send their children to the exam. A group of students have gathered around the school sign. Some are excited, and some are sad. Candidates in the cultural class, don't check the answers, there are other subjects to be tested later. Teacher Ren held up the loudspeaker. Students of the combat class, don't check your answers. Although you have finished the cultural subjects, there will be a simulated battle tomorrow. Don't let this affect your performance. As for the candidates for the awakening papers, Bai Pu was the only one in number 17 middle school, so Teacher Ren didn't have to hold the loudspeaker to shout. Even if he shouted like this, there were still students from the combat class who quietly came over and wanted to check their answers with Bai Pu. Bai Pu was doing the awakening paper, and the written test part of the awakening paper had the same test content as the written test part of the combat class. The difference between the two is tomorrow's virtual battle, and the virtual battle of the awakening paper is much more difficult. Of course, in addition to the virtual battle subject, the awakening paper also has a spiritual world exploration subject to be tested, and the combat class students who have not yet awakened don't have to take it. The students of the cultural class can choose majors in the future in the field of logistics and scientific research. The cultural class's test paper only has a written test part, and the written test content does not contain the tendency of spiritual world exploration. They test the knowledge of spiritual energy technology and social humanities, and they are more in-depth and detailed in these two aspects. Students in the cultural class did not take the 6-hour exam at one time and finish all the written exam content at once. Their written exam subjects were divided into 6 sessions in total, and each session lasted from 1 to 2 hours. They only took 2 exams today, and will take 2 exams tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. The girl who came to Bai Pu to check answers mustered up the courage to speak, but was scared away by Bai Pu's unfocused and indifferent eyes. A boy came over and asked Bai Pu the answer to a certain question. Don't ask, Bai Pu didn't do anything, he probably handed in a blank paper. A student whispered, after our exam was over, I passed by Bai Pu's exam room, the invigilator was waking him up at the time. Chapter 41, Silicon Valley Base. No one asked immediately. Although everyone was curious about the academic performance of the only awakener in the school, it would be unwise to ask about it when others obviously failed the exam. Only those who deliberately ridiculed and provoked would ask. Although some boys in number 17 middle school felt jealous of Bai Pu's popularity, they still knew that Bai Pu's arrival was a good thing for the school and everyone. The set of virtual combat equipment allowed many students in the combat class to experience the feeling of virtual combat in advance before the college entrance examination, just like doing a set of real college entrance examination questions in advance. The students in the combat class had a great increase in confidence in the virtual combat subject exam. Teacher Ren came over and comforted Bai Pu, it's okay. Even if you can't get into the top 8 universities, you can at least get into a key university in the region with your status as an awakener. Bai Pu didn't waste his energy to defend himself. He just asked, when will the results of the cultural subjects be available? Now the intelligent assistants are scanning and marking the papers, which is very fast. Teacher Ren said, I guess tomorrow, after you finish your virtual combat subjects, the results of the cultural subjects will be available. The results of the virtual combat will be announced immediately after the exam, so there is no need to wait. Bai Pu asked in confusion, intelligent assistant scanning and marking? Those subjective questions may have more than one answer angle. Does the intelligent assistant have the ability to flexibly distinguish them? Generally speaking, the personality of an intelligent assistant is relatively rigid, and it is difficult for it to be like a real examiner, including answers of various styles. Every subjective question on every test paper will be scanned by 8 intelligent assistants with different preset personalities, including radical, conservative, emotional, rational. Then the highest score and the lowest score will be removed to calculate the final score. Teacher Ren smiled and said, don't worry, the college entrance examination has a history of more than 900 years, and artificial intelligence grading has also lasted for hundreds of years. In the past 100 years, artificial intelligence grading has not made any mistakes. Bai Pu personally experienced the role of the intelligent assistant Xiaobei, which is like a caring housekeeper. In the field of artificial intelligence, humans have indeed made great progress. The next day, the virtual combat subject exam officially began. In the envious and admiring eyes of his classmates, Bai Pu stepped into the examination room exclusively for awakeners, the virtual copy. Just like the virtual copy bone crypt of the Zichen branch of the Shen-Set army, the virtual copy in front of him, called Silicon Valley Base, was designed based on a future technology-style intersection. In the circular base of Silicon Valley, there are 10 passages extending from different directions outside to the core area of the Silicon Valley Base. On the way of the 10 passages, there are dormant chambers. There are 2 rows of weapon racks beside the dormant chambers. As the examinees break in, the power system will be gradually activated, the dormant chambers will be opened one after another, and combat robots will appear. These combat robots are the opponents of the examinees, and they are also test questions. Knocking down the combat robots will get the score of the test question. In the virtual copy of Silicon Valley Base, the professional skills, talents, combat skills, equipment, props, and storage space of the awakened are restricted by the rules and are in an unusable state. The only thing the examinees can use is the weapon rack next to the dormant chamber, which has various non-attribute weapons. The priority of this restriction rule is as high as 10 points. In the awakened stage, even for the hero profession, the basic priority is only 4 points. Counting the additional 3 points of priority for the 3-star skill, it can barely reach a total priority of 7 points. It is a luxury to want to increase it by 1 point, and it is even more difficult to reach 10 points of priority. In other words, the examination of virtual combat subjects is to test the combat expertise of the awakened. Of course, the college entrance examination rules do not prohibit the awakeners from using skills. If the awakeners are able to break the 10-point priority limit and use their skills, it means that the awakeners are already strong enough to break through the sky, and prohibition is superfluous. Bai Pu opened his personal attribute panel. He glanced at it. Flesh armor, jump slash, unstable shield, spin throw, all the skills were gray. However, the 3 talents of Heart of Evolution are still lit and available. The priority of the Heart of Evolution talent exceeds 10 points. Bai Pu was shocked. No wonder the super energy group values the evolution source blood so much. It seems that the origin of the evolution source blood is far greater than Bai Pu thought. It is not just a special product of the flesh plague, origin plane. This speculation is well-founded, because the highest priority of the spiritual plane explored by the awakeners is 10 points. The Heart of Evolution talent can exceed the 10-point priority, so its source must be higher than the awakener plane. Calm down, calm down. It's a good thing to have a high priority, but it also depends on the strength and applicability of the skill. The ability of pure blood defense to transform slaves is useless to robots, so it's half useless. The principle of pure blood defense is to create pure blood and inject it into the enemy's body to deform it, so that it will be enslaved and controlled by Bai Pu. In principle, the limitation range of this skill is already very clear. It must be a carbon-based creature, a creature with flesh and bones as its body. Robots are silicon-based bodies, and they are not even considered living things. It's a miracle that they can be controlled by pure blood. Of course, pure blood can also be injected into Bai Pu's own body, providing up to 7 points of free attribute bonus. But considering that there will be a more critical exam for the spiritual world exploration subject next, it would be better if the 2 drops of pure blood stored by Bai Pu could be saved for the spiritual world exploration subject. These thoughts flashed through his mind, and Bai Pu collected his thoughts. He stepped into the entrance of the passage. The first dormant chamber in front of him has been successfully powered on. With a series of clicks, the first combat robot appeared. Horizontal ellipsis. Jiangnan District Education Examination Institute, Control Room Number 1. On the big screen, the battle scenes of awakened candidates were projected. There were 7 or 8 people sitting on both sides of the long table. Each of them had the bearing of a superior, which was the majesty cultivated by holding power for a long time and issuing orders. There was also a man wearing a military uniform. Looking at his shoulder straps, it was a pair of overlapping wheat ears and 2 gold stars. It was several floors higher than Li Ling's 3 stars with 1 bar. The seat of this military uniform boss with 2 gold ears was not the main seat at the long table, but the first seat on the left. A group of bosses. There's no need to show those awakened people in ordinary professions. The big boss sitting in the chief seat said with a smile, "In our Jiangnan region, there are even hero professions this year, so there should be a lot of enhanced elites, right?" The practical officer standing behind the big boss was a middle-aged man wearing glasses. He reported, "Secretary Kiao, There are a total of 104 enhanced elite professions this year. More than 100 people are not a small number, so let's show the process of these people breaking through the levels. Secretary Kiao said, "Give each committee member a remote control. Anyone who sees an interesting seedling can tune it out for everyone to see." Yes. The director of the Jiangnan Regional Education Examination Institute, who was at the last seat, wiped his sweat and quickly handed over 8 control room remote controls. As a world event, the college entrance examination will be supervised by the Spirit World's will for fairness throughout the process. These big bosses sitting in the control room to watch the game will not destroy fairness, and everyone knows the severity. If anyone dares to interfere with the college entrance examination and destroy fairness, the Spirit World will withhold the rewards for the world event. That would be a major accident, and everyone present would be punished. Let's take a look at the Su family's children first. This is the only heroic profession in our Jiangnan region, and it is the flag of the candidates for this year's college entrance examination. The big man sitting in the second seat on the left clicked the remote control first, and the picture he selected quickly enlarged and filled the entire screen. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Azure Dragon Fights Monk. Wow, it's only been a short time and you've already made it to the inner third ring. This should be the fastest. As expected of a heroic profession Blue Dragon Fighting Monk, even without the blessing of skills, his physical attributes and combat qualities are enough to crush his peers. The big guys looked at the surveillance footage and commented. In the video, a slender, dark-skinned bald young man, with his fists and feet, was as fast as the wind, hitting a beast-shaped robot in midair. The dark-skinned bald young man threw wild punches one after another, hitting the fragile joints of the beast-shaped robot. There was a series of crackling sounds, and the beast-shaped robot was shattered into pieces all over the ground. The dark-skinned bald young man did not rest at all, and stepped directly into the next ring. The code name of the Su family child seems to be Guangzhen. It's really appropriate, there are only wrong names, not wrong code names. I wonder if this Guangzhen can win a top scorer for our Jiangnan region. It's difficult. The big man in military uniform coughed. This time, there's more than one hero profession. I heard that the little bully of the Zhou family in the Zhejiang region is also a hero profession with a second job change. A big man next to him said, in fact, some enhanced elite professions cannot be underestimated. Take the granddaughter of the Wu family in the East China Sea for example. She is an enhanced elite characteristic profession Blood Curse Hunter. Although she has not had a second job change, she is willing to work hard. I heard that she is already level 5 some time ago. Compared with the vast majority of candidates below level 3, her level alone has a crushing advantage. The big man sitting opposite analyzed from another perspective. The awakening volume not only depends on strength, but also on brains and luck. Finally, there is the spiritual world exploration subject that accounts for 60%. It is really hard to say who will get first place. The middle-aged practical officer behind him had a respectful look on his face. He knew that all the big men present were once powerful heroes, with strength, vision and experience. In the psychic era, the top leaders of each region were all powerful and experienced awakened people. These awakened big men formed the regional committee and controlled the highest power of the region, the appointment and removal of practical officials. Of course, the big men were only responsible for the appointment and removal of practical officials. For specific affairs, such as urban development, planning and construction, etc., they generally did not ask about them and left them to the practical officials. In the psychic era, great power belongs to individuals. Although these practical officials have great power, they cannot override the awakened big men behind them. In addition to their own strong strength, the big men often control huge awakened organizations, and their energy is far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Suddenly, the big man in military uniform pressed the remote control, and the camera turned, and the picture cut to a pale-faced teenager. The teenager was pale and had heavy dark circles under his eyes. He held a short sword, moved very fast, and was agile. He kept circling around a humanoid robot, and when the robot turned around, he always took the opportunity to hide an effective attack. This boy should be a long-range professional who is good at archery. The way of exerting force is very similar. A big man said, It's just that in a one-on-one situation, it is difficult for the archer to comfortably output from a distance, so he was forced to fight in close combat. Archers with agility are indeed at a disadvantage in taking virtual combat subjects. Well, this person is a newcomer to the genius camp of the Shen Set army, named Li Yufin. The big man in military uniform laughed. His code name may not be very nice, called Mad Dog. The big men present all laughed. They were all high-spirited young awakeners. People who came from that era were very accepting of such curious nicknames. The archer's combat expertise is still a little weak, and this kind of one-on-one test is very disadvantageous. Fortunately, he has agility and can rely on speed to fight, otherwise he may not be able to reach the 6th ring. Well, the 7th ring should be his limit. A big man commented casually. In the Silicon Valley base dungeon, each channel has 10 rings. Rings 1 to 3 are called the outer 3 rings, rings 4 to 6 are called the middle 3 rings, and rings 7 to 9 are called the inner 3 rings. In addition, there is a 10th ring, the core ring. The closer to the inner ring, the stronger the combat robot. The combat robots in the outer 3 rings have attributes that are only in the range of level 1 standard template to elite template, and their combat expertise is also advanced level 1. The middle 3 rings are much more powerful, with attributes rising to the level 2 standard to elite range, and combat expertise has also reached advanced level 2. The inner 3 rings are the most difficult, with attributes in the level 3 standard to enhanced elite range, and combat expertise has even reached advanced level 3. As for the core ring, it already has the attributes of a level 4 enhanced elite, and the combat expertise is as high as level 4, which is the most difficult big question in the combat subject. As expected by the boss, Mad Dog made it to the 7th ring. Facing a combat robot with the attributes of a level 3 standard template and advanced level 3 combat expertise, he tried hard but failed to defeat it. All his health points were cleared by the combat robot and he was forced to exit the virtual copy. In the combat subject of 200 points, Mad Dog got 120 points, which was just enough to pass. However, the difficulty of the awakening volume is so high, and Mad Dog's performance is quite good. Most of the awakening candidates were forced to be eliminated before they even passed the 4th ring. Although the shooter suffered a loss, the candidates with mental expertise and spellcaster professions were more miserable than the shooter. They usually practice meditation expertise the most. The means of manipulating mental power derived from the meditation expertise can penetrate the alloy shield and manipulate the power control button next to the dormant chamber, affecting the power supply of the combat robot and weakening the combat robot. This is the only advantage of candidates with mental expertise. But even if the combat robot is weakened, they still have to face it with real swords and guns. Candidates with spellcaster professions not only have low melee expertise, but also poor physical attributes. Think about it, how much fighting power can a spellcaster who has been given silence have? Crazy Zen has passed the level. This should be the first candidate in the Jiangnan region to get full marks in the combat project. Everyone nodded. Many candidates of enhanced elite professions passed the 9th ring, but when they reached the core ring, they were eliminated when facing enemies of level 4 enhanced elites with level 4 advanced combat expertise. Only candidates with outstanding talents who have risen to level 4 or above before the college entrance examination and entered the intermediate awakening level have the hope of passing the level and getting all the points. As candidates of enhanced elite professions passed the level or were eliminated one by one, the number of pictures on the big screen became smaller and smaller. Hey, this candidate is quite interesting. It seems to be a tank profession, which is rare. A big man switched the picture. I know this candidate. His name seems to be Bai Pu. He is the one who has our lawsuit with the Super Energy Group. The uniformed boss smiled and said, Chairman Wu, do you know him? Sitting diagonally opposite the uniformed boss, a thin, bald, bespectacled old man with a stern face shook his head and said, I am the chairman of the Superstar Alliance and am only responsible for the affairs of the alliance. As for the Super Energy Group, it is managed by my useless cousin, and I have never asked about it. Forget it, let the people below do the general affairs. Let's see which ring this rookie can get to. In the picture, Bai Pu has already reached the 6th ring. He is facing a robot with huge metal wings, a land raptor type. The metal wings of the raptor robot can sweep a large area with one sweep, which is really a bit foul. Bai Pu's agility is very low, and he can't dodge at all. He is frequently hit by the wings and suffers blunt damage. The metal wings swept over, carrying a huge force, and Bai Pu was dizzy. Fortunately, his adaptive evolution has a form that targets blunt damage, and he has a one-arm shield, otherwise he would have been overwhelmed. Not bad, as a low-level awakener who has just awakened, his ability to withstand damage is quite good. It's a pity that his physical attribute is a bit low, otherwise he should be able to pass the 6th ring. While the big guys were commenting, Bai Pu suddenly accelerated in the picture, a few points faster than before. At the moment when the raptor robot flapped its wings to attack, Bai Pu dodged and got close to the root of the raptor robot's wings. His fighting spirit was completely different, and he smashed the raptor robot's wing root joint with a single-handed hammer. The powerful force burst out, and the raptor robot's wing root clicked a few times. The device was damaged and locked, and half of the wings lost support. Bai Pu followed with a horizontal leg sweep, kicked the raptor robot to the ground, put one knee on its neck, and hammered it again and again, tearing it apart into a bald wild bird. Chapter 43. How high is his spiritual talent? Hey, it seems that he has concealed his strength and achieved the effect of surprise. This candidate is said to be from a shelter and has just awakened in the past 2 months. He is a good seedling. Amid the discussion of the bigwigs, Bai Pu has already stepped into the 7th ring. The 7th ring is already one of the inner 3 rings. The attributes of the combat robot of the 7th ring are equivalent to the standard template of level 3, which is slightly weaker than the raptor robot of the 6th ring. But don't think that the 7th ring is simpler than the 6th ring. The combat robot of the 7th ring has reached level 3 and has advanced combat expertise to level 3. Many awakened candidates, because of their suppressed level and combat expertise, are not as skilled as their opponents. Even if they have stronger first-line attribute hard power, it is difficult to make an effective attack. They are defeated by the combat robot with cleverness. Bai Pu walked to the side of the hibernation chamber, dropped the one-handed hammer and arm shield, and picked up a two-handed sword. What's going on? Isn't it that his best skill is not shield mastery and one-handed hammer, but two-handed sword? The gap is a bit big. The big guy stopped changing channels and stared at the screen with interest. In the picture, facing the violent attack of the beast-type robot of the 7th ring, Bai Pu calmly raised his greatsword and blocked it from the front and back. Although he is not very agile, his battle vision is extremely accurate. He can often deliver the greatsword in advance and block the enemy's attack route. It looks like the beast-type robot is just ramming into the greatsword. When the beast-type robot's attack stopped, Bai Pu launched a counterattack. The greatsword was swung back, making the beast-type robot stagger slightly, and then he raised his hands high, turned the greatsword behind his back to accumulate power, and slashed with a sword. Bang! A gap appeared on the surface of the beast-type robot, and it was chopped back half a step. Bai Pu made a forward movement to resolve the inertia of the greatsword's vertical slash, and then accumulated power for the second sword and chopped again. This sword knocked the beast robot to the ground, and its metal limbs kicked wildly. After Bai Pu slashed with his second sword, the inertia was even stronger. He simply stopped trying to dissolve it, but leaned his sword forward on the ground, using the inertia to do a front flip like a pole vaulter. After landing, he slashed with the strongest and fiercest third sword. Kaka! The beast robot's head was chopped off. Bai Pu did not stop and stepped into the 8th ring. Facing an enemy with level 3 elite attributes and advanced level 3 combat expertise, he also killed it in one go. In the number 1 control room, the bosses did not continue to talk, but concentrated on observing Bai Pu's every move. In the picture, after a long fight, Bai Pu finally stopped to rest after killing the combat robot in the 9th ring, and did not enter the core ring immediately. It should be the limit. After a long time, a boss broke the silence. It should be. The combat robots in the core ring are as high as level 4, with a full 2 levels of level suppression. The damage caused by combat robots to him is increased to 120%, while his damage to combat robots is reduced to 80%. Yes, level suppression is too critical. But this candidate is already amazing. He has passed the 9th ring at only level 2. Has this candidate really only awakened for a month or two? How did he practice the two-handed sword combat expertise to this level? It looks like he has advanced to level 3 or even level 4. In any case, he should not be able to pass the core ring. Even if we don't consider level suppression, the attributes of the level 4 enhanced elite alone are enough to crush him. The other bigwigs nodded one after another. They had already seen Bai Pu's personal information. He was only a level 2 enhanced elite. With such a level gap, there was basically no chance of winning. In the field, after Bai Pu stepped into the core ring, the hibernation chamber slowly opened. However, when the hibernation chamber in the core area was opened, a sudden sizzling sound of electric current burst was heard, and the lights in the core ring dimmed. The light in the eyes of the battle robot that stepped out of the dormant chamber dimmed a lot, and the fierce momentum it originally exuded also slipped a bit. Power cutoff. Meditation expertise. This is a spiritual expert, with advanced meditation expertise and unique spiritual power manipulation. The big guys were all shocked. They never thought that Bai Pu was actually a spiritual expert. How could a good seedling of a spellcaster choose the path of a warrior? An awakened big guy with a white beard and a felt hat shook his head inside. The key is that he chose the tank profession, but he was able to awaken the ability to manipulate spiritual power. How high must his spiritual talent be? I'm afraid his spiritual attribute before awakening was close to 10 points. Silicon Valley Base, Virtual Dungeon, Core Ring. You temporarily merged the combat gene fragment of the Necromancer. You temporarily gained 5 points of spirit. Your meditation expertise was temporarily upgraded to advanced level 3. Based on your meditation expertise, you temporarily awakened the ability to release spiritual power. You can use your mental power to perform mental scanning, light object capture, and other abilities. Bai Pu used his mental power to penetrate the alloy shield on the side of the dormant chamber and press the button to block the power supply. In this way, the combat robot can only use the backup power supply in its body and reduce the output power. The specific manifestation is that the attribute is weakened by 30%. It is reduced to the level of a level 3 enhanced elite. Bai Pu took a deep breath and consumed 15 life points again to temporarily fuse the combat gene fragment of the skeleton warrior. You temporarily fused the combat gene fragment of the skeleton warrior. You temporarily gained 6 points of strength. Your combat expertise is temporarily upgraded to advanced level 3. Continuously fusing different combat gene fragments made Bai Pu's brain swell and feel nauseous. However, compared with a feeling of weakness caused by sitting in a wheelchair and atrophy of muscles all over the body, the nausea now will not affect Bai Pu's combat. The combat robot in front of him is a petite female human form. It is holding a rapier in its hand and takes an agile route, striding forward. Although it is a mechanical body, its movements are very fast and flexible. Facing this sword, Bai Pu did not dodge or evade, but directly swung up the sword and slashed horizontally. The battle robot stabbed a shallow blood hole in Bai Pu's body with a sword. It was very fast, and the metal foot slid lightly, as if it was equipped with a pulley, and slid to the side of Bai Pu. While dodging Bai Pu's horizontal slash, it stabbed again with a sword, hitting Bai Pu's waist. Bai Pu said nothing, and used the inertia of the sword to rotate, and the sword swept horizontally in a whole circle. The battle robot suddenly jumped up, and the soles of its feet jumped up as if there were springs, stepped on the wide surface of Bai Pu's sword, and used the force to jump over Bai Pu's head and strike down from the air. The difference in attributes between the two sides is secondary, and the difference in combat expertise is really fatal. Although the attributes of the core ring battle robot were weakened by 30%, its combat expertise of up to level 4 was not weakened at all, forming a double suppression of basic attributes plus combat expertise on Bai Pu. Bai Pu turned his head to avoid a vital point, and the rapier pierced into the shoulder blade. He seemed to be able to feel the cold metal and shoulder bone rubbing against each other. Severe pain came, but Bai Pu remained calm. He raised his hand and suddenly grabbed the mechanical arm of the combat robot holding the sword. The combat robot tried to break free, and the fingertips of its left hand swept towards Bai Pu's eyes. This kind of attack is to force the enemy to save himself, and most people would lean back to avoid it. But Bai Pu did not dodge, but just closed his eyes. Swish! The metal fingertips scratched the skin around the eyes, leaving 3 deep lacerations on Bai Pu's right eye, and half of Bai Pu's face was bleeding. At the same time, Bai Pu tightly grasped the combat robot's right hand and exerted force, throwing it down suddenly. Boom! Dust filled the air, and the combat robot finally lost its elegant posture and fell to the ground in an embarrassed manner. Bai Pu stepped on its back with one foot and chopped down with his sword. Chapter 44. Is there dinner in the cafeteria today? 1. Trading injuries for injuries. The battle strategy is very clear. This ruthlessness is rare. The uniformed boss clapped his hands and exclaimed, "It has been decades since the Third Psychic War, and the younger generation is increasingly lacking this kind of life-threatening ruthlessness. Our China is strong and the situation is stable, and the awakened ones we have cultivated always feel like flowers in a greenhouse. I feel the same way. Although the number of awakened people is increasing and the data on paper has improved, when it comes to survivability and combat capabilities, compared with the ruthless people who have killed in the chaotic areas of Southeast Asia, it is not optimistic." The bosses talked a lot, and they all praised Bai Pu. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that there was a gap in hard power between Bai Pu and the combat robot, especially in terms of agility and combat expertise, which were completely suppressed. If Bai Pu fought normally, he would have to empty his health and leave the field. But Bai Pu was ruthless, and he refused to dodge, trading injuries for injuries, and seizing an opportunity to completely resolve the battle. Amid the discussion, only Chairman Wu of the Superstar Alliance remained silent. Under his round-framed glasses, his squinting eyes were as deep as a cold pond. Secretary Kiao tapped the table lightly, and said with a hint of emotion, "Among the Awakeners who scored full marks in the virtual combat project in the Jiangnan region, Bai Pu should be the lowest level. He is not only the lowest level, but also the last to awaken." The uniformed boss couldn't stop praising, and then looked at Chairman Wu meaningfully. The Shangse army has a military background, and the uniformed boss naturally knew that Bai Pu had been assassinated at the junction of the Dead Bone Mountains. However, the bosses all respect their status, and they will not argue about such small things at the bottom until they get conclusive and irrefutable evidence to prove that the Superstar Alliance has an absolute connection with this matter. Secretary Kiao looked at the dean of the Jiangnan District Education Examination Institute. "Have Bai Pu's cultural subject test results come out?" "It's out." The dean was prepared and said with a smile, "Just like the virtual combat subject, it is also a full score of 200. Congratulations, Secretary Kiao. The emergence of such an excellent seedling in our Jiangnan region is inseparable from your wise leadership." The bosses all showed surprise. "Wow, full marks in the cultural subjects. This is much rarer than full marks in virtual combat. There are many subjective questions in the cultural subjects. Multiple intelligent AIS jointly mark the papers, and the highest and lowest scores must be removed before calculating the average score. The possibility of getting full marks is too small." "What does full marks mean?" All AIS with different preset personalities gave full marks to Bai Pu's test paper. Bai Pu didn't know yet that he had left a deep impression in the minds of the big guys in Jiangnan District. After leaving the virtual copy of Silicon Valley Base, he walked along the candidate channel, left the examination room, and returned to the location of Zichen No. 17 Middle School. Ding dong, the intelligent assistant Xiaobei sent a message. Bai Pu raised his wrist and unlocked his pupils. "Bai Pu, the results are out. How are your virtual combat subject scores?" A boy came over. He actually wanted to know Bai Pu's cultural subject scores more, but Bai Pu's performance yesterday was obviously not good, so he asked in a roundabout way. The results of the combat class's cultural subjects were announced as early as noon today. The awakening paper is the same as the cultural subjects of the combat class, and the results are also announced simultaneously. "It's okay." Bai Pu unlocked the personal information terminal. Xiaobei sent a message, "Master, the results of the cultural subjects and virtual combat subjects of the awakening paper of the Lingian 806 college entrance examination that you participated in have been announced. Do you want to browse now?" Bai Pu paused slightly. Looking at the eager and curious eyes of the boy next to him, he hesitated for a moment. "Browse?" Bai Pu spoke, "Anyway, sooner or later, others will know." Swish, a thin light curtain the size of a palm was projected. Several classmates quickly squeezed over, both boys and girls. Since Bai Pu didn't mind others seeing the results, then everyone naturally didn't have to endure their curiosity. Shi Yu was among them, and she saw the score on the light curtain first 200. This is the virtual combat score. It's amazing, worthy of being a genius who awakened early. The virtual combat project is full of marks. Shi Yu thought so. The light curtain flashed, and another 200. Huh? Shi Yu's eyes froze, and then his eyes moved up quietly. 806 college entrance examination results query. Name, Bai Pu, candidate ID, encrypted, click to display, ID, encrypted, click to display, exam subject, general culture, exam score. 200, it's confirmed, it's the general culture subjects. It's confirmed, it's Bai Pu's transcript. It's confirmed, it's this year's college entrance examination results. Shi stared at Bai Pu's transcript in disbelief, until the virtual light screen was retracted. She turned away in despair. Bai Pu's eyes were always out of focus. Bai Pu's daily extremely regular hard training. Bai Pu's serious recitation. The pictures of the past 10 days merged together and gathered into a big number. 200, circling in Shi's little head. One person spread 10, 10 spread 100, and in the whispers, the teachers and students of number 17 middle school and other nearby middle schools all knew about Bai Pu, a person who scored full marks in the general culture subjects of the awakening paper. Teacher Ren squeezed to Bai Pu's side with a complex feeling of excitement and confusion. You got full marks in the cultural subjects. Yes, I was lucky. Bai Pu was telling the truth. He originally thought that the AI grading papers with different preset personalities might give answers that did not conform to AI logic, causing the scores to fluctuate. Unexpectedly, the technology of intelligent AI is so mature that even with different preset personalities, they all found the bright spots in Bai Pu's answer sheet, recognized the rigor of Bai Pu's logic, and gave full marks to all. Teacher Ren didn't know what to say, but just sighed. Genius is genius. Teacher Ren, I still have the exam for the spiritual world exploration subject. When did this subject start in previous years? Teacher Ren said, usually it is on June 9th. It depends on the time when the spiritual world will issue a collective invitation. The official will announce it in advance. In fact, I don't know much about the spiritual world exploration subject of the awakening paper. In recent years, there has been no genius who awakened early in our number 17 middle school. Then do I need to enter the examination room? Bai Pu asked. The will of the spirit world issues a teleportation invitation, and no matter where the awakened person is, he can be teleported. At that time, he was in the ward of the superpower private hospital, with tubes inserted all over his body and a control chip in his body, and he was directly teleported to the spirit world. Teacher Ren nodded and said, you need to enter the designated examination room and teleport to the mirror plane collectively. If you don't go by the deadline, it will be regarded as giving up the exam. Bai Pu nodded, then I will bother number 17 middle school for another day. Is there dinner in the cafeteria today? Chapter 45 Luanu. Teacher Ren, there is dinner. By the way, I heard that you also got full marks in the virtual combat subject. Bai Pu nodded. The wound on his shoulder blade has basically healed, and the 3 claw marks on his right eye have also scabbed over. After a good night's sleep, the scar will be completely gone tomorrow. This is the recovery ability of the awakened. After the body is digitized, as long as the health value is restored to the upper limit, it means that the body has recovered to full health. Teacher Ren frowned and said, then you have to be careful. When the will of the spiritual world conducts collective transmission, the candidates will be divided into different batches and assigned to various mirror planes. According to the consistent practice of the will of the spiritual world to pursue balance, candidates with similar virtual combat scores will be divided into the same batch, the strong against the strong, the weak against the weak, so as to observe your growth potential. Bai Pu nodded and said, I heard from Sister Ling. Although he knew this convention, Bai Pu did not deliberately control his scores and fall into the group of weaker students. It's not that Bai Pu likes to challenge the strong, but he feels that he is the strongest in the subject of spiritual exploration. Whether facing a group of strong people or a group of weak people, it will not affect his grades in the end. It should be that others saw him and took a detour, not that he took the initiative to control his scores and took a detour. June 9th, early morning. The official announced the start time of the spiritual exploration subject, which is also the time of collective transmission of the spiritual world, Zijing time, 12 noon. Also announced was the method of evaluating the performance of candidates by the will of the spiritual world. By the time the candidate leaves the mirror plane, the candidate's status, world reputation, merit value, will be converted into scores according to different ratios. In the mirror plane, candidates can obtain all benefits normally, which is no different from the exploration of the real spiritual world. These benefits also mean the scores of the spiritual exploration subject. For example, Bai Pu killed an aboriginal elite and drew a blue equipment from the trophy chest. In addition to being able to use this equipment, he can also get the corresponding score. The score is related to the valuation of the equipment. Therefore, the spiritual world exploration subject of the college entrance examination is actually an opportunity for all awakened candidates of the appropriate age to freely explore the spiritual world. All the spoils obtained by the candidates in the mirror plane can be brought back to the real world normally. This alone is rare. There is only one difference. The status, world reputation, and relationship with the spiritual world characters obtained by the candidates in the mirror plane will be reset after the exam. This is also normal. After all, it is a mirror plane, not the original plane world. The entire mirror plane, including the aboriginals in it, are copies created by the will of the spiritual world. The grievances and hatreds with the copies will not extend to the original body. Jiangnan District, Su's Manor. Yaozhen, this is the list of candidates who got full marks in the virtual combat subject in the 7 major regions of the country that I found, a total of 79 people. If nothing unexpected happens, these 79 full marks should appear in the same mirror plane. An office lady wearing glasses and a small suit handed over a stack of information. The dark-skinned bald boy named Su Yaozhen took the list and glanced down. He is the hero profession code named Guangcham King Long Fighting Monk, the direct descendant of the Su family in the Jiangnan region. Basically, they are all intermediate awakeners, above level 4. Quang Chan looked at the people below and suddenly exclaimed, "How come a level 2 person got in? He is only level 2, and with such severe level suppression, he can actually defeat the combat robots in the core ring." The office lady with glasses reminded, "This person has just awakened, and he hasn't made a name for himself yet, and he doesn't have a code name. His real name is Bai Pu, the one who was accused of theft by the Super Energy Group some time ago and made a lot of noise." "Is it him?" Quang Chan said with a smile. "I have an impression of him. This guy is very interesting, and maybe I can use him for my own benefit. You want to win him over? Do you want me to send him an invitation?" Quang Chan shook his head. "The college entrance examination is more important. There is no need to contact them for now. Wait until I get a top score in the college entrance examination." Donghae District, Wu family. A red shadow shuttled back and forth between the trees. Wherever it passed, only the sound of thumping was heard, and the dummies hidden between the trees fell down. Each dummy was injured in the throat, heart and other vital parts, and was pierced with deep holes. "Huh?" The red shadow stood still. It was a girl in red clothes of about 17 or 18 years old. She was wearing a red short dress, with the buttons on her chest tightly tied, as if they would burst and fly out at any time. She was wearing 7/4 tights, which perfectly outlined the curves of her thin waist and plump buttocks. "King Guyan, the list of virtual combat subjects is out. Do you want to take a look?" A voice sounded. Wu Qingyan shook his head. "I don't have time to see it. I'm going to the family copy and practice combat expertise for another 2 hours. Know yourself and know the enemy, and you will never be in danger in 100 battles." Outside the forest, the voice continued to persuade. "A group of level 4 awakeners can also threaten me?" Wu Qingyan said calmly. "Based on my current level 6 strength, I am at least 2 levels of level suppression. I will definitely be the top scorer in this college entrance examination. My opponent is only me. There are many other people who have also obtained the information of candidates with full marks in virtual combat in advance. Most of them are curious about Bai Pu, a level 2 candidate with full marks. After all, a level 2 person mixed in with a group of intermediate awakeners is almost like a husky mixed in with a wolf pack." Of course, some people are dismissive. In the Zhejiang district, the young genius of the Zhou family code-named Overlord, after hearing about Bai Pu's qualifications, laughed and waved his hands. "Forget it. I don't know how hard he worked to get full marks in virtual combat, but this is his failure. There is a price to pay for forcibly entering a level that does not belong to you." Zhejiang time, 12 noon sharp. Bai Pu sat in the examination room, surrounded by awakened candidates. The candidates looked at each other cautiously and vigilantly. Bai Pu took a few deep breaths, suppressed his restless mood, and closed his eyes to rest. "I must get the top scorer in this year's college entrance examination. I have made a good start in cultural courses and virtual battles, and the next is the spiritual world exploration which I am best at. I will definitely get it." Bai Pu thought silently in his heart. The top scorer in the college entrance examination has a huge reputation bonus, which can greatly increase the cost of the Super Energy Group to assassinate Bai Pu. Moreover, the top scorer in the college entrance examination can also get rich rewards from the will of the spirit world. According to the previous interview with the top scorer, the reward is at least one powerful title, and there is also an extremely rare opportunity to draw dark gold roulette. If you are lucky, it is not impossible to draw dark gold equipment, Lord level equipment. Even if you can't draw equipment, you can get a reward equivalent to the valuation of a dark gold equipment if you draw other categories. Last year's top scorer in the college entrance examination, Wan Zhen, drew a personal attribute enhancement, and he gained a full 20 points of free attributes. The light of group transmission flickered, and the white light slowly surrounded the 30 people in the examination room. The 30 figures gradually faded and disappeared. A familiar sense of weightlessness came, and in front of Bai Pu, a prompt message of the will of the spirit world appeared. Welcome to the plane scene, Chibi. This plane is a mirror plane made by intercepting a scene from the Three Kingdoms plane world. In this plane, you can obtain all the spoils normally, except for items that are unique in the world, but your relationship with the native characters of this plane cannot be inherited to the real Three Kingdoms plane world. In this plane, no main quests or side quests will be generated. You can freely explore this plane for 10 days. Based on your virtual combat subject scores, the order in which you enter the mirror plane is, first, it is detected that your level is only level 2, which is obviously weaker than the average level of this batch of candidates. You have been treated preferentially and can freely choose a +1 level affix. A. Famous family. Your initial origin in this plane is increased by 1 level, including but not limited to family background, caste bloodline. B. Prominent. Your initial status in this plane is increased by 1 level, including but not limited to official position and military position. C. Friend. You have the friendship of an elite native in this plane. D. Challenge. You have obtained a clue to a side quest in this plane. These 4 affixes are related to Bai Pu's identity, social relationship, plot discovery and other aspects after his entry, which is a good bonus. Bai Pu first ruled out options C and D. He thought these 2 options were not difficult to explore. Item A, famous family, and item B, prominent, seemed a bit similar, but Bai Pu carefully tasted them and still distinguished the difference between them. Famous family refers to blood origin, and prominent refers to official position. For example, Liu Bei, with royal blood, was a rich and powerful man, so his blood was considered very high, but his status at the beginning was very low, a weaver and shoe seller. Bai Pu decisively chose item A, famous family. In the late Han Dynasty and the Three Kingdoms, people still valued blood origin. If you had a higher blood origin, you would have a greater chance of being favored by the high-level indigenous people after making meritorious contributions. As for item B, prominent, it can be obtained by making meritorious contributions in the plane world. You have chosen the affix, famous family. Please select your faction. Currently available options, Ciao Army, Sun Quan Army, Liu Bei Army. Bai Pu chose Sun Quan Army without hesitation. Faction forces confirmed. Initial identity is being generated. Your initial identity is Lu Niu, a distant descendant of the Wujin clan Lu, currently a soldier in Sun Quan's army and Jiangdong Navy. Chapter 46. I am Lu Boyo. White light flashed, and Bai Pu entered the plane scene. The scenery in front of him slowly froze. Welcome to the plane scene of Three Kingdoms, Red Cliff, and take the test of the subject of spiritual exploration. You temporarily acquired the language of this plane, Ancient Chinese. Your appearance and clothing have been temporarily adjusted to adapt to the original inhabitants, and will not arouse the suspicion of the natives. Adjustments to your appearance and clothing will not affect your hidden attribute, charm. Three Kingdoms, Red Cliff, time. 3rd century AD, region, Asia Yangtze River Basin, intensity. 2.4, background. There was a small deviation in Chinese history when it came to the Qin dynasty. The burning of books and burying of scholars did not happen. The inheritance of Confucianism and martial arts has continued. At the end of the Eastern Han dynasty, heroes competed for supremacy, and extraordinary people showed their abilities. Scholars cultivate a righteous spirit and achieve unity between man and nature. Warriors cultivate the method of Genki and dominate the battlefield. The cold river wind blew, and Bai Pu was shocked. The memories of Lu Niu, an aboriginal, flooded into his mind, a distant descendant of the Lu family, a prominent family in Wu County. The ancestor of the Lu family was Lu Tong. Lu Niu's grandfather, Lu Qing, was the 20th generation of the Lu family, but his family fell into decline. His father, Lu Ming, had never been educated and had been a farmer all his life. By the time of Lu Niu's generation, he didn't even have a decent name. The scene in front of him slowly froze, and he felt a shaking sensation on the soles of his feet. Bai Pu found himself on a huge warship, with a wide river in front of him, a riverbank behind him, and a camp with flags flying. Lu knew, it's time for dinner. Two rough hands pressed down on Bai Pu's shoulders and shook them. Bai Pu pressed down on the hands and turned his head to look over. A big man wearing a gray turban, half a coarse cloth, and half his chest exposed was shaking his shoulders. That was his fellow villager Zhang Dalan. The two were not familiar with each other, but after being conscripted, they boarded the same warship and naturally felt very close. Don't call me on you, I have a real name. Bai Pu started with a name. My name is Lu Pu, and my grandfather gave me a courtesy name, Boyu. Lu Boyu. Zhang Dalan repeated it stutteringly. Although he did not understand the meaning of the courtesy name Boyu, he felt a sense of power. The fellow villager in front of him seemed to have a different temperament. Zhang Dalan recalled and nodded and said, well, your surname is indeed Lu. It is said that your grandfather is a branch of the Lu family. Bai Pu said, Brother Zhang, you can just call me Lu Pu. This is the effect brought by the additional suffix famous family, which will make people who know Bai Pu subconsciously accept his origin as a descendant of a famous family. Even if you look through the Lu family tree, you can find related people such as the grandfather Lu Qing and the father Lu Ming of this Lu Anyu. If there is no famous family affix, and you just come into the world and make up a noble origin for yourself, the natives will definitely not believe it. Bai Pu looked at his clothes, which were similar to Zhang Dalan's. The only difference was that he had a more complete inner garment, and he didn't expose his chest, so he didn't bring disgrace to his family. Zhang Dalan dragged Bai Pu, and led by the leader of the green armored squad leader, to the camp to get food. Along the way, he kept saying, you have to be careful these days. The military law of the Grand Commander is strict. I heard that even General Wang Gongfu was punished with a stick. If it weren't for the pleading of many adults, he would have been beheaded by now. Bai Pu cooperated and showed a surprised expression. When did this happen? It was just yesterday, didn't you know? Zhang Dalan's gossip attribute was satisfied, and he said excitedly, I heard that General Wang's entire back was broken, bleeding all over the ground, and he was bedridden. Many people went to visit him, and there were many complaints about the Grand Commander in their words. Zhang Dalan's words were vivid, but Bai Pu did not doubt its authenticity. This is exactly the famous allusion in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Zhou beat Wang Gai, one was willing to fight, and the other was willing to be beaten. As for why the soldiers all knew the news of Wang Gai's punishment, of course it came from Zhou's tacit approval and even incitement. He wanted to spread the news of Wang Gai's torture throughout the army, so that the Cao army on the opposite side would believe it and accept Wang Gai's false surrender. The Three Kingdoms plain world is a world with far-reaching influence and extremely high difficulty. Reading the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a compulsory course for every awakener. It's just that not every awakener can remember the specific time and date. Bai Pu is different. He can recite the entire Romance of the Three Kingdoms backwards, word for word. After recalling it, Bai Pu sorted out the timeline after the bitter plan. After Wang Gai was tortured, Kan Ze came to visit, and then went to Cao's camp at night to present a false surrender letter. After Kan Ze returned, he contacted Gan Ning and tricked Ke Zhong and Ke He, two spies sent by Cao's camp, into forming a surrender team. It's just that Kan Ze and Gan Ning were pretending to surrender, while Ke Zhong and Ke He believed it and reported it to Cao. Cao was suspicious by nature and did not fully trust Wang Gai and Kan Ze. He sent the smart Zhang Gan across the river to find out the truth. Under Zhou's secret arrangement, Zhang Gan met Pang Tong, the Phoenix, and immediately introduced Pang Tong to Cao. Pang Tong also proposed a chain of plans, locking Cao Ying's warships with large iron nails. The so-called iron chains connecting boats, as if walking on flat ground, overcame the weakness of northerners who could not withstand the turbulence of wind and waves, but also made Cao's army tie their own hands and feet and unable to deal with fire attacks. A few days later, Zhuge Liang borrowed the wind from the seven-star altar, and Zhou set fire to Sanjiankao, burning Chibi and defeating Cao's army. After that, it was the struggle between Sun and Liu for the territory of Jingzhou. There was no need to think about it because there was no time. In this special mirror plane scene, if you can't trigger the main task, you can't get more residence time. All candidates are the same, with only 10 days of free exploration time. Bai Pu followed Zhang Dalan and stepped onto the walking boat tied to the stern of the warship and headed to the camp by the river. While walking, boarding the boat, etc., Bai Pu had already felt the difference between this plain scene and the earth, as if the air resistance and the gravity of the earth were stronger, and even the ground seemed more solid. The strength of this plane scene is 2.4, which means that the concentration of psychic particles is higher. Mountains and rivers are more solid and difficult to destroy, and poisonous insects and beasts are more ferocious and difficult to deal with. The most important thing is people. Living in a plane with such a high concentration of psychic particles, the strength of those natives who are dedicated to fighting can be imagined. When Bai Pu entered the plane scene, he had already worn the title he got from the previous plane world, Eagle Eye. Eagle Eye, SYNOPSIS title. Wearing this title to enter the spirit world plane, you will gain reconnaissance skills and obtain some information about the target. After using the reconnaissance skill, you need to wait for a natural day before you can use it again. The reconnaissance ability attached to the title has a cooling time of up to 24 hours. However, Bai Pu did not hesitate to use it directly on the leader of the green armored squad leader. Suddenly, a barely perceptible red light flashed across the body of the green armored captain, and a translucent data frame appeared in Bai Pu's field of vision. Zhang Nang, ordinary level 4, race, humanoid human, occupation, steel fork sailor, attributes, strength 10, agility 26, endurance 15, spirit 9, skills, deadly stab, skilled, water mastery. Chapter 47. Zhao Si is possessed by evil spirits. Bai Pu did not want to waste his reconnaissance skills, but to verify his guess through this green armored sergeant. It's just as I thought. Since the plane scene of Three Kingdoms, Red Cliff is to test a candidate's spiritual exploration results, the difficulty must naturally fit the average level of the candidates. I belong to the same batch as those candidates who scored full marks in virtual combat. The average level should not be lower than level 4, so the level of the natives should also be above level 4. A Navy sergeant with an ordinary template has attributes that surpass those of a level 2 elite creature. Although his combat expertise is definitely not as good as that of an elite, he still cannot be underestimated. After all, there are hundreds of thousands of low-level soldiers on this battlefield, and the corresponding sergeants must exceed 10,000. The difficulty of the scene can be imagined. Bai Pu's eyes were dim. After entering the camp, he received the food. It is worth mentioning that the food of the Sun Wu sailors was surprisingly good. It was steamed corn rice with pickled vegetable and fish soup, which was salty and delicious, so Bai Pu ate 2 more bowls. Of course, this was also because it was the first meal for Bai Pu's group of sailors who had just disembarked, and they were rewarded. Being on duty on a warship, eating cold and hard dry food, drinking filtered river water, and sleeping on the bumpy river surface was really hard. According to Zhou military management rules, it often took 10 days for sailors to take turns to disembark and rest, and the first meal after disembarking must be better. After eating, Zhang Nang, the green armored sergeant, led Bai Pu and other sailors to the pre-designated camp to rest. Suddenly, a group of people gathered on the side of the road, as if they were watching the excitement. Faint scolding could be heard from the crowd. Zhang Dalan went over, pricked up his ears and listened for a while, then quietly ran back and said to Bai Pu, for some reason, a sailor actually stopped the military commander and gave him advice on the strategy of sending troops, and was punished by the sergeant. Bai Pu was stunned. This evil sailor was obviously an awakened candidate like himself. The military system of Jiangdong Navy, from low to high, is Wu, Shi, Tui, Tun, Chu, and Bu. 5 people form a Wu, and 2 Wus form a Shi, led by Wu Chang and Shi Chang respectively. 5 Shis form a Tai, with a team leader, 2 Tui form a Tun, with a Tun chief. The Tun chief is a general of 100 people. 5 Tuns, that is, 500 people, form a Chu, led by military Marcus. Think about the difference of 5 levels between the military Marcus and the lower-level soldiers, and you will know how ridiculous it is for the lower-level soldiers to stop the military Marcus from making suggestions. This is like a big-headed recruit stopping the battalion commander and teaching him how to fight. He will definitely be criticized by the squad leader. Especially in the Three Kingdoms plane, the hierarchy is strict, and the lower-level soldiers often can't read a few words, and their opinions are impossible to be taken seriously by the upper level. In the Three Kingdoms scene, the sergeant obviously won't do any persuasive education to deal with the troublesome soldiers, but verbally abuse and beat with sticks. This awakened candidate may not be able to bear it. Bai Pu thought silently. As soon as he entered the plain scene, he was eager to come forward to show himself, which showed that he had an impatient personality. It was normal for an impatient person to lose his mind after being insulted and beaten by the sergeant. Suddenly, there was a clang of swords and the crowd of onlookers let out a low cry. The crowd broke apart like a wave, and a figure rushed out with a knife. There were traces of blood on his blade. Zhao Si is crazy. He killed the sergeant. Go and call Zheng Hao. The awakened Zhao Si was obviously agile. He ran to the wooden fence wall of the camp and jumped. Duo. With a dull bowstring sound, a feather arrow shot out and hit Zhao Si in the back. The strong force made Zhao Si's body fly high up, and then fell heavily. Blood flowed freely like a stream. This arrow actually penetrated Zhao Si's defense directly and killed him on the spot. The archer was slowly putting away the bow. He wore a red scarf on his head and half of his body was covered with the green leather soft armor. Only the wrists, waist, knees and other important parts were protected by silver armor rings. He didn't even wear a bra. His strong chest muscles were wildly exposed, and the copper bell hanging around his neck was particularly eye-catching. It's General Gan. Once General Gan makes a move, Zhao Si will definitely have no way to survive. I don't know what evil has befallen him. Bai Pu keenly discovered one thing, that is, when Zhao Si was pierced by the feather arrow, a phantom escaped from his body, then turned into white light and disappeared. Bai Pu was very familiar with this white light. It was the light of cross-border transmission. Obviously, the candidate was not really dead, but was separated from the plain scene and returned to reality. Then the body of Zhao Si left on the spot should be a sleight of hand set up by the will of the spiritual world, saving the aborigines from discovering the abnormal scene of the body turning into light and disappearing, and then questioning other awakened candidates. The General Gan mentioned by the soldiers was dressed like this again. Most likely, he was the General Gan Ning who was born in the Jinfen Thief. Bai Pu did not regret using the reconnaissance skill on Zhang Nang, the green armor sergeant, in advance. The reconnaissance skill can only obtain partial information about the target. The stronger the target is compared to Bai Pu, the less information the reconnaissance skill can obtain. It is estimated that if it is used on Gan Ning, at most he will know his name, and even his attributes may not be fully checked, let alone his skills. What we can be sure of now is that Gan Ning can kill a level 4 elite awakener in seconds. Bai Pu rubbed his forehead. The problem is that the battlefield of Chibi is full of generals. Although Gan Ning is strong, there are at least 8 generals who are stronger than him in this battle. Not to mention Bai Pu, a small level 2 awakener. Even a level 4 candidate can only be regarded as cannon fodder on the battlefield of Chibi. Not to mention that the biggest advantage of the awakener is single soldier and squad combat. This kind of group large-scale battlefield needs to be avoided as much as possible. Bai Pu has made up his mind to leave the front battlefield of Chibi. Passing by a wounded camp, there are many wounded soldiers in the camp. They are the unlucky ones who were shot and injured by arrows when the Dongwu Navy and Cao's army shot across the river last time. Several medical officers were busy patrolling the camp, healing wounds, and changing dressings. Bai Pu suddenly raised his hand and said to Zhang Nang, the green armored sergeant who led the army, Shangguan, I can make medicine and help the doctor treat the wounded. Zhang Nang turned around and saw that Bai Pu had already set the alchemist sub-profession in his personal panel to exhibition status. In the eyes of the natives, this action of displaying one's own sub-profession would automatically transform into taking out the alchemist's certificate or showing off the books in one's professional field. In short, it is a way to prove that one has the professional skills of a certain sub-profession without arousing the suspicion of the natives. Zhang Nang wanted to reprimand, but when he saw the medicine book that Bai Pu took out, he couldn't help but said with joy, the war is tight now. If you really have such skills, it would be a good thing. I will take you to see the chief physician now. However, if you are swindling, don't blame the military law for being ruthless. Bai Pu said loudly, I am a branch of the Wu Jinlu family. I have been able to read since I was a child and have read medical books. If your superiors don't believe it, you can ask the chief physician to examine me at any time. Wu Jinlu family? Zhang Nang was suddenly shocked. This is a famous family in Jiangdong. Zhang Dalin next to him said, yes, Lu A knew. Lu Pu is indeed from the Wu Jinlu family. I heard from my grandfather that Lu Pu's grandfather studied in the Lu family school. This is a small piece of evidence, which increases the credibility of Bai Pu's words. The sergeant Zhang Nang then ordered 2 sergeants wearing half-body armor to lead the rest of the sailors into the camp. He personally took Bai Pu to the wounded camp to see the chief physician. The chief physician's surname was Liu. He was an old man wearing a blue shirt and a gray beard. He was impatient at first, but when he heard that Bai Pu was from the Wu Jinlu family, he was in awe and said, "Since you are a descendant of the Wu Jinlu family, you must be talented. But treating the wounded is not a trivial matter, and we need some proof." Chief Physician Liu then gave Bai Pu a bunch of dry things that looked like weeds, and said, "This giant Jinhua is quite effective for sword and gun injuries. You will prepare it first." Bai Pu took the bunch of dry weeds. He had learned the knowledge of alchemists in the flesh plague, origin plane, and had knowledge of many medicinal herbs. Although the flesh plague, origin plane is Europe and the Three Kingdoms plane is Asia, they are both source planes intercepted and generated in the long history of the Earth, and the principles of medicinal materials are the same. It's just that when it comes to the specialty medicinal materials of the plane, there will be certain differences. Bai Pu took the seeds of the golden flower, put them in a small bowl and ground them into fine powder, then put the stems and leaves in the soup pot, and decocted them into a small bowl of thick soup, and said, "The powder is applied externally and the juice is taken internally to stop bleeding and relieve pain." Dr. Liu stroked his beard and smiled. "That's right." Zhang Neng, the leader of the Green Armor Division, was also quite happy. He patted Bai Pu on the shoulder and said, "You follow Dr. Liu to make medicine. I will report to the military Marcus and transfer you to the wounded camp for treatment." Swords have no eyes. Zhang Neng was also worried about what to do if he was injured. Now that there is an acquaintance like Bai Pu among the doctors in the wounded camp, it is undoubtedly an extra insurance. Chapter 48, Victory Ointment. In the wounded camp, Bai Pu followed the medical officer and was busy. He could ask questions from time to time and get answers. This was because he came from a famous family, even if it was only a distant branch. The Wu Jinlu family was a family of scholars and aristocratic family, but doctors in ancient times were menial servants. In addition, Bai Pu spoke humbly and politely, and had a handsome appearance, high hidden charm value. Liu Yizhang did not reject Bai Pu's eagerness to learn, and kindly pointed out the shortcomings of Bai Pu in the use of medicine and preparation. "You treated a wounded soldier of Sun Quan's army. Your merit value in the Sun Quan army camp +1. This prompt was an unexpected surprise. I didn't expect that I could get merit points without participating in the frontal battlefield, and the merit points could eventually be converted into college entrance examination scores. Not only did he get merit points, but Bai Pu's secondary profession, alchemist, also had a slowly increasing experience value, because of the guidance of the indigenous Liu Yizhen. If it were an ordinary awakening candidate, he might be satisfied with staying in this wounded camp. After all, he could gain merit and secondary professional experience, which was killing two birds with one stone. But Bai Pu didn't think so. He didn't serve as a medical staff for this merit at the beginning. He wanted to get out of the Red Cliff battlefield. And he got out without being a deserter or leaving the Sun Quan army. In the Three Kingdoms era, military service was heavy and there were many deserters. Therefore, the punishment for deserters by various forces was very severe. Not only was there a capture law to arrest deserters, but also their families were punished together. Basically, deserters were equivalent to cutting themselves off from the clan. Bai Pu's famous affix, +1 level of origin, was very important, and it was the cornerstone of his planning many things. Of course he would not give up. When taking care of the wounded, Bai Pu deliberately doubled his diligence, which saved Liu Yizhang a lot of effort, and naturally opened up his favorability towards Bai Pu. During the conversation with Liu Yizhang, Bai Pu intentionally or unintentionally asked about the basic information of the Red Cliff scene, such as where the medicinal materials for the wounded camp were transported from, whether there were any medicines that could greatly improve the combat effectiveness of the soldiers, etc. Liu Yizhang stroked his beard and said, "This camp is located at the mouth of the Sanjiang River. All the military medicinal materials are transported upstream from Chaisang City to the Fengkao camp. As for the medicines that improve the combat effectiveness of the soldiers, there are also some." Then Liu Yizhang showed a bottle of light yellow ointment and said, "This thing is called Hushin ointment. Dissolve it in clean water. After drinking it, the soldiers will be extremely powerful and not afraid of swords and guns. The effect is extraordinary. There is such a thing." Bai Pu took this Hushin ointment and soon received a prompt from the will of the spirit world. Hushin ointment, a level war prop, dissolved in water and drunk, you can gain strength +3, basic armor +8, and a buff state that lasts for 180 minutes. After the effect ends, You will enter a weak state with all attributes -3, which lasts for 1 natural day. Hint: you cannot take the victory ointment out of the 3 kingdoms, Red Cliff Plain scene. This thing is a bit like a stimulant, and the side effects are quite obvious. It is not very useful for the awakened, but it is a magic medicine for the army. So it is a large-scale war prop. It is estimated that a bottle of victory ointment can be dissolved and a large number of soldiers can drink it. I wonder how this ointment is made. Bai Pu implemented his thirst for knowledge. He felt the value of this war prop. If he could learn how to make it, it would be very beneficial to his alchemist career promotion. Liu Yizhang smiled but did not answer. It was obvious that he knew something, but the relationship, favorability, between the two had not yet reached that. Liu Yizhang would not easily reveal such extremely valuable information. At this time, another green armored sergeant suddenly led 2 people over and said, "Master Yizhang, these 2 people have also read medical books and can use medicine to treat injuries." Bai Pu glanced at the 2 people and saw that they were a man and a woman, both wearing coarse linen clothes of ordinary soldiers, and there was nothing unusual about them from the outside. But the spirit and energy are completely different from those of ordinary low-level soldiers. These 2 are awakened candidates, and they come from the same place as Bai Pu. It is possible that they heard about Bai Pu entering the wounded camp, and after a little speculation, they thought of the benefits and followed suit. The 2 also glanced at Bai Pu, obviously knowing that Bai Pu was here a long time ago. Liu Yizhang said in surprise, "Talents who are proficient in medicine have always been rare, and the wounded camp has always been short of manpower. Today, there are several more helpers, which is naturally a good thing." Liu Yizhang was about to take the test, but he saw the male awakener raise his hand and said directly, "Master Yizhang, there is no need to take the test, please look at our methods." As he said, the 2 came directly to a wounded soldier who was taken care of by Bai Pu. The wounded soldier was wounded by an arrow in the abdomen, and originally had sores and pus. Half of his lower abdomen was bulging high, and it was hard and painful to press. Bai Pu was cutting the wounded soldier's wound and squeezing out pus and blood. The male awakener took action directly and sprinkled a bunch of medicine powder. The female awakener poured a few drops of the red liquid into the wound, and the powder immediately merged and turned into a layer of light red protective film, which slowly seeped into the wound. The groaning of the wounded soldier stopped, and the arrow wound on his lower abdomen actually healed slowly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bai Pu frowned slightly. In order to gain the trust of the medical officer, these 2 people actually used precious alchemical potions. Alchemical potions are the product of the Earth's spiritual civilization. They are made by alchemists who collect spiritual herbs and refine them through the alchemical knowledge learned from the source plane. The price is quite expensive. The spiritual exploration subject of this college entrance examination has strict restrictions on the use of props. The official regulations have long stipulated that candidates can only carry 2 bottles of alchemical potions for healing and recovery as supplies, and all other props are not allowed to be used. This regulation is also a restriction from the will of the spiritual world. For example, in Bai Pu's storage space, the C+ level prop, Stowaway's token, is in a gray and unusable state, and only the equipment and 2 bottles of potions are available. When Dr. Liu saw this scene, he did not show any surprise on his face. He just said with regret, "This kind of elixir is similar to the healing elixir made by Taoists. It's just a waste to use it for ordinary arrow wounds." The 2 new candidates wanted to use this method to intimidate the medical officer, but Dr. Liu was knowledgeable and had seen similar medicines. For a moment, he was a little embarrassed and smiled awkwardly. The green armored sergeant asked, "Master Doctor, have these 2 people passed the assessment?" Dr. Liu sighed lightly, "I'm afraid that elixir is precious, and your methods are not easy to use frequently. In view of your generosity for the wounded, you should learn the techniques of treating wounds well, and don't rely on elixir to neglect the basics." In this way, the 2 awakened candidates also entered the wounded camp of the Sanjian Cow camp. However, the 2 were obviously different from Bai Pu. They did not have a secondary profession like alchemist. They lacked the basics of how to prepare medicinal materials and how to use medicines, which Liu Yizhang taught them. It was like listening to a heavenly book, so they naturally did not learn very well. In addition, the 2 did not have the bonus of Bai Pu's noble family background. Liu Yizhang could only sigh and let them be responsible for cleaning wounds, cutting sores and squeezing pus, and other menial tasks. These 2 people were indeed the elites in the first batch among millions of candidates. They did not even frown at this kind of dirty and bloody work, and did it very diligently. Otherwise, the two would definitely not be able to gain a foothold in the wounded camp. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Heart of Steel. Taking advantage of the gap, one of the female candidates came to Bai Pu to chat quietly. Bai Pu exchanged identities with the other party. The female candidate was codenamed Squid, and the male candidate next to her was codenamed Iron Crocodile. Bai Pu didn't want to give his real name directly, so he gave himself a temporary codename, Steel Heart. The word steel represents a strong physique, and the word heart means an evolving heart. Steel Heart, in the Red Cliff scene, it's too disadvantageous for one person to fight alone. Why don't we unite? Squid whispered, do you know? The overlord of the Zhejiang region has won over more than a dozen candidates and formed an offensive and defensive alliance. Their goal is to sweep the top 10 in the spiritual world exploration subject. Bai Pu had no objection to this. Of course, he knew the benefits of uniting. Although everyone is a candidate and is in a competitive relationship, Bai Pu's competitors are not just the two in front of him, or even just dozens or hundreds of candidates in this plane, but tens of thousands of awakened candidates distributed in other mirror planes. A small-scale alliance can greatly increase the overall ranking of the three-person group. Why not? As for the competition among the three people, whether someone would stab them in the back, Bai Pu was still somewhat confident in his intelligence. The boy codenamed Iron Crocodile suddenly asked abruptly, Gangson, have you exceeded level 3? Noyu said angrily, why do you ask that? Basically, our group has full marks in virtual combat, how can it be no more than level 3? Bai Pu knew that Iron Crocodile should have some kind of reconnaissance skills and saw his level. He did not hide it and directly revealed his professional level. Level 2. Noyu's eyes widened, obviously not expecting Bai Pu's level to be so low. This is not because she has level discrimination, but the rules of the spirit world's will are like this. When a low-level awakener faces a high-level opponent, not only will the damage caused be weakened, but the damage received when attacked will also be increased. The difference between the increase and decrease is immeasurable. Not to mention the threshold of level 3 to level 4, which is the leap from low-level awakeners to mid-level awakeners, there will be a very obvious gap in strength. After Iron Crocodile got the confirmation, his attitude changed immediately, from being warm to being a little cold. He coughed lightly and said, Gangson, you have a good relationship with Dr. Liu, so your charm is not low, right? Let's see if we can get some space to move freely, which will naturally benefit you. Squid hesitated for a moment, as if he felt that Iron Crocodile's tone was too arrogant, so he added, Gangson, as long as you can do it, we will definitely take you with us when we have the opportunity to improve our scores. Bai Pu didn't care about Iron Crocodile's attitude, and said calmly, okay, but I need your cooperation. Opportunities are created, not waited for. What do you mean? The two of them immediately became energetic. The next day, early morning. Bai Pu studied until late last night and only slept for 2 or 3 hours. After he got up, he stretched. The prompt message of the will of the spirit world came, now announce the real-time list of the top 10 scores of the spirit world exploration subjects of all awakened candidates in the mirror plane number 1, only the code name is displayed. First place, Overlord, 57 points. Second place, Kwang Chan, 44 points. Third place, 10th place, Tiki, 19 points. Your current conversion score is 5 points. Please keep working hard. My 5 points should be converted from a low-level soldier to medical officer in the wounded camp, and my status has been slightly improved. Yesterday's busy work earned me 20 merit points, which can also be converted into scores. Bai Pu squinted his eyes and looked through the information. The code names on this list are chosen by the awakened people themselves. If someone with good intentions gives you a name like Longtang Kuang Bamishi's Hey, it's not impossible, as long as it meets the word limit of the spirit world's will. But you have to know that those who can enter the number 1 mirror plane are basically awakened geniuses who have scored full marks in virtual combat subjects, and those who make it into the top 10 here are geniuses among geniuses. They don't seek popularity. Using their own commonly used code names to make themselves well known is a more personal approach. In just one day and one night, the number 1 Bai scored 57 points, which is terrifying. But Bai Pu is not in a hurry. He had already vaguely guessed how Overlord had achieved such a high score. The path that Bai Pu had chosen was not the time to exert his strength yet. Entering the wounded camp, Bai Pu met Dr. Liu. Dr. Liu was anxiously pacing around early in the morning. What should we do? The camp medicine storehouse caught fire last night, and nearly half of the stored medicinal materials were burned. The war is urgent and there is a shortage of medicines. When the governor blames us, we won't have enough heads to chop off. Bai Pu was well prepared and said, Sir Doctor, now we can only go to Chasang City to buy medicinal materials. Dr. Liu shook his head and said, there are wounded soldiers sent here every day, how can I leave? Bai Pu bowed and said, I am not talented, but I am willing to go. Dr. Liu said happily, you are from the Liu family of Wujin, you are familiar with Chasang, and you are well versed in the properties of medicines. It would be great for you to go and buy medicinal materials. Bai Pu received a reminder that Dr. Liu's sensitivity had increased, and he had risen to the level of acquaintance. Bai Pu pointed to Tai Crocodile and Squid, who were looking at him eagerly, and said, purchasing is a big deal. I am afraid that I can't do it alone. Please allow me to take these two with me. Liu Yizhang naturally agreed. Anyway, Tai Crocodile and Squid can't play any role here. What they can do can be done by just a few servants. Liu Yizhang wrote a note and sent it to the camp. The deputy commander of the camp approved the order to investigate the cause of the fire and sent a team of soldiers, 50, to sail with Bai Pu and others to Chasang City to buy medicinal materials. Before leaving, Liu Yizhang called Bai Pu and whispered, if you are interested in the alchemy of Taoism, you can go to Hulong Temple in Chasang City to ask a few questions, but don't miss the main business. The will of the spirit world prompts, you learned about the information about the alchemy of Taoism from the natives. It is detected that you have a secondary profession, alchemist. The job transfer task is started. Job transfer task, alchemist task target, find an alchemist in Hulong Temple in Chasang City and learn Taoist alchemy. Task deadline, none. Equivalent to the remaining stay time in this plane. Task difficulty, S. Task reward, secondary occupation, alchemist. Bai Pu thanked him and was excited. He knew why Liu Yizhang didn't say it yesterday but only said it today. It was because of the increase in favorability. The medicine warehouse was burned, and Bai Pu took the initiative to buy medicinal materials. This favor naturally turned into favorability in Liu Yizhang. Speaking of it, Bai Pu felt a little guilty. It was he who suggested burning the medicine warehouse to get the opportunity to go out to buy medicinal materials, and then it was carried out by Iron Crocodile and Squid. However, the awakened people themselves do this kind of opportunistic things and profit from it. The moral bottom line is very flexible, and Bai Pu must adapt, otherwise he will be eliminated by the awakened world. All he can do is to buy good medicinal materials and hope that Liu Yizhang will not be beheaded for this. Standing at the bow, looking at the mighty Yangtze River, the three candidates all had a sense of excitement. Gangxin is really smart, and his idea is really useful. Noyu said happily. This time we will go downstream to Chasang City to buy medicinal materials. Excluding the round trip, we can stay in Chasang City for at most 3 days. Bai Pu glanced at the commander of the warship, the aboriginal captain named Zhou Yu, and whispered, in 3 days, I will buy medicinal materials. You two can move freely, but don't forget what you promised me. Remember. Noi hurriedly said, when you need help, we will help you and do our best once. This is notarized by the will of the spirit world, you can rest assured. Tiu also nodded. Now there is a team of Sun Quan sailors on this warship. Their commander is naturally the Captain Zhou Yu, but Bai Pu, as the person in charge of buying medicinal materials, also has the right to dispatch these sailors to do some non-combat things. Even without the notarization of the will of the spirit world, the two dare not break their promise. Because when buying herbs and returning to the camp, they have to rely on Bai Pu to say good things to Liu Yizhang. If they anger Bai Pu and go back to complain to Liu Yizhang, the two will definitely suffer, and being sent back to their original troops is the best outcome. If Bai Pu is ruthless, he can even fabricate charges to have the two imprisoned, and they will miss the key plot of burning down Chibi and hunting down Xiao's army, which would be a big loss. Neither Tai Yi nor Mo Yu realized that their attitudes towards Bai Pu had quietly changed, From looking down on him to now needing to be careful to please him. The small group of the three is vaguely centered on Bai Pu. Mo Yu wanted to curry favor, and whispered, "Gang Xin, the burning of the medicine warehouse by Tai Yi and Ala last night can only be regarded as a small action. In addition to this small matter, a big thing happened last night." Chapter 50 Overlord Team. What's the big deal? Bai Pu actually had some guesses. After all, there must be a reason why Bai Wang scored so high. The big event last night was definitely related to Bai Wang. Mo Yu whispered, "Wang Ai was punished by Zhou Yu, and sent a messenger Kanze to Xiao Ying at night to secretly present a false surrender letter. You know this plot, right?" Bai Pu nodded and said cooperatively, "Does anyone dare to do something about this key plot?" Mo Yu nodded and said, "Bai Wang led a dozen candidates, asked for a patrol job at night, surrounded and killed Kanze, seized the false surrender letter, and presented the false surrender letter to Zhou Yu's tent. Besieged and killed Kanze." Bai Pu's heart was shocked. Although he had guessed, he was still shocked when he really heard it. Although Kanze is not well known, he has a strong and colorful stroke in the romance of the Three Kingdoms. Kanze, courtesy named Aaron, was from Shanayan, Kuaiji. He was poor but studious, worked as a hired servant, and borrowed books from others to read. He would not forget them after reading them once. He was eloquent and had little courage. You should know that the background of Three Kingdoms, Red Cliff, is the ancient Chinese world where the burning of books and burying of scholars did not happen, and the way of cultivation was not cut off. A scholar like Kanze must be a unity of man and nature, and be able to borrow the power of heaven and earth to fight against the enemy. Just like the wizard Jialan in the Plane of Flesh Plague, Origin, he is a powerful aboriginal with spiritual expertise and good at magic. Considering the world strength of Three Kingdoms, Red Cliff, which is as high as 2.4, Kanze's template will never be lower than a level 6 leader. Such an aboriginal leader was actually surrounded and killed by the Overlord. But this dangerous move of pulling teeth from a tiger's mouth, the high-level officials of Sun Quan's army could not do anything to the Overlord. They even had to pinch their noses and praise him. What about the follow-up? Bai Pu asked. How can we know what happened in the big tent? Said the Inkfish with a wry smile. We only know the result. Wang Ai was detained, Gan Ning was punished, and the Overlord signed a military order and led his troops to Judy Mountain to burn Xiao's food and grass. Bai Pu nodded and said, It seems that the Overlord's team has chosen the opposite path from us. Bai Pu avoided the front battlefield and took a different approach. The Overlord team chose to fight hard and participate deeply in the plot. Yet, the Iron Crocodile, who had been silent, sighed, I have to admire him. He can actually think of this trick. He is worthy of being a hero profession. It seems that the Overlord has already won the top scorer in this college entrance examination. The Inkfish said, that may not be the case. There is not only the Overlord in this hero profession, but also the Guangchen in the Jiangnan region. It's just that the Jiangnan camp is vast, and I haven't heard the news of Guangchen. Looking at the list, you can see that Guangchen has scored 44 points, not much worse than the Overlord. Did you think about competing? Bai Pu asked. Tai Yu shook his head and smiled. What can we fight for? Although both I and Mo Yu are level 4 enhanced elites, the gap between enhanced elites and hero professions is huge. Our goal is to maintain silver and strive for gold. We will be satisfied if we can win a place in the gold and silver list. Bai Pu was also clear about the 3 lists of gold, silver and bronze in the college entrance examination. After all, the rules have been like this for hundreds of years. The top 1,000 in the country are for the bronze list of the college entrance examination, the top 100 in the country are for the silver list of the college entrance examination, the top 10 in the country are for the gold list of the college entrance examination. These are all recognized by the will of the spirit world and will be rewarded generously. As for the top 3, Iron Crocodile and Cuttlefish were jealous of Bai Pu's secondary profession. They watched for a long time, but did not get any hints from the will of the spirit world. It was like reading a heavenly book. They could only leave in disappointment and go to the deck to watch the sailors fishing. It is difficult to get started in the secondary profession of the source plane without the careful teaching of the natives. With Bai Pu's comprehension, it took more than 10 days of free exploration in the plain world of Flesh Plague, Origin before he learned alchemy under the guidance of Qin, a learned native. Its difficulty can be seen. With the wind and the water, the boat was fully sailed and arrived at the ferry in front of Chasang City before dusk. Suddenly, The boat was bumpy and a muffled sound was heard, as if a giant was hitting the ship. Bai Pu stood up with the help of the cabin plank, and heard the noisy voices outside, so he stepped out. The moment he opened the curtain, Bai Pu saw an amazing scene. A sailor used a harpoon to spear a big black fish, and the next second a black shadow shot out from the water. It turned out to be a dark crocodile. The crocodile was 2 or 3 meters long, with its mouth wide open, and its sharp teeth bit the big black fish. The huge inertia of falling even dragged the sailor off the boat. There were 7 or 8 gray-black backs like dead wood floating on the water. It turned out that there was more than one crocodile. The one that just hit the cabin should be one of them. The sailor fell into the water. Even though he was a good swimmer, he could not escape death when surrounded by crocodiles. He was torn into 17 or 18 pieces, and blood and internal organs floated in the water. River alligators. Team leader Zhou Yu hurriedly ordered, "No one should lie on the deck to watch. Hurry up and get ashore, these beasts dare not chase us." The warship docked, and as expected, the crocodiles did not catch up, but only tore the prey and ate it on the river. Everyone calmed down and boarded the boat to go ashore. After checking the documents at the gate officer's place, Bai Pu and his party entered the city. Tai Yu and Mo Yu agreed with Bai Pu on the meeting place and code, and then said goodbye and left first, obviously to act in Chasang City to search for some benefits. Team leader Zhou Yu took most of the soldiers to guard the boat. Accompanied by several soldiers, Bai Pu went straight to the major drugstores in Chasang City. He was buying on behalf of the army. Although the price was very low, the required quantity was large, and the shopkeepers of the major drugstores were still attentive to him. While negotiating the price, Bai Pu asked about the location of Hulongwen. Who knew that the shopkeepers of the major drugstores were all at a loss when asked about Hulongwen, and that expression of not knowing could not be faked. Bai Pu was not discouraged. He knew that the task of changing his job to an alchemist was as difficult as S-level, and it must not be that easy. He turned to ask about the distribution of the forces of the big and small gangs in Chasang City. This was a time of chaos, and unlike the Three Kingdoms plane in real history, the way of cultivation in this plane was not cut off, and the great power belonged to the individual. The knights violated the law with force, and there were countless gangs of all sizes in the rivers and lakes. Although the rivers and lakes gangs were unable to fight against the regular Sun Quan army, they were more flexible, and it was common for them to fight for interests at night. As long as they did not massacre civilians, Sun Quan's military office was too lazy to care about these strong men, and often turned a blind eye. After all, Cao's army was pressing on the border, and there was no time to send troops to sweep the rivers and lakes. Besides, even if they did, what would happen? Where there are people, there are rivers and lakes. Once the army left, the rivers and lakes would be in turmoil again. Unless someone imitated the history of Qin Shi Huang, who burned books and buried scholars, banned the world's orthodoxy, and let the great power no longer belong to individuals. Only then can the situation of knights violated the law with force in the Three Kingdoms plane be changed. After running to several medicine shops and combining the information obtained, Bai Pu had a clear understanding of the gang forces in Chasang City. Chasang City under the night was quiet and empty because of the curfew, with few pedestrians. Only occasionally could you see a few people returning at night, passing by quietly like thieves. A brothel, with a sound of men and women laughing and making noises faintly coming from inside. Suddenly, the door of the brothel opened, and several burly men rushed out from inside. An old procuress angrily yelled behind her back, saying that she couldn't even take care of a chick. "Why don't you catch her back?" Several men led the small dog and searched along the street, cursing. Suddenly, there was another person in front of them. The leading man almost bumped into him, and couldn't help but yelled, "Damn it, don't you have eyes? Are you the cuckolds of the brothel?" The dim light of the lanterns reflected the face of a handsome young man. It was Bai Pu. The word cuckold with contempt and disdain made several men furious. "Bullshit, I'm from the Wild Wolf Gang." The leading man yelled and cursed and was about to grab Bai Pu's collar, and the others surrounded him. "Since he's a cuckold, it doesn't matter if you beat him." Bai Pu smiled slightly. The Wild Wolf Gang is one of the underworld gangs in Chasang City, and they are all engaged in brothels and human trafficking. Several big men are just strong civilians, not even weak templates. They are quite capable of bullying the people, but they can only be defeated when facing an awakened person like Bai Pu. With one punch, Bai Pu punched a big man and made him hold his stomach and bend like a shrimp. He kicked another man several meters away, and he hit the wall and fainted without a groan. There was a sound of wind behind him, and a big man swung a stick and smashed it down. With a bang, it landed on Bai Pu's back shoulder, but it was like hitting an old cowhide. Bai Pu did not move, stepped back and elbowed, and hit the third big man so hard that he spurted acid. Bai Pu suddenly grabbed the last man's neck. Do you know where Lu Chuan is? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.